Hello guys, how are you all doing? Welcome to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Naruto time traveled to save his family and village from Kyuubi's attack movie. So before we start, go check out the author of this fanfic, ZeroTheDestroyer. Link is in the description. Also subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Let's start the story. 9 days before the Kyuubi attack. You have to believe me. I know what I am saying sounds a bit crazy at best, and downright sacrilegious at worst, but it's true, every word of it. I may look 12 years old, but I am really 16. Well, kind of. I just turned 16, but that isn't the point. The point is, I was fighting God a couple minutes ago, and I sort of lost. Naruto thought this over, trying to recall the events. Well, not so much as lost. See, I unsealed the demon inside of my belly. How it got there is a long story, and boom, everything kind of got set on fire. Do you understand what I mean? Big flames, inferno, etc., you know? Little Naruto tried to explain his past to a sleeping drunk, who was wetting his crotch, as piss dripped down the inside of his brown pants. Despite this, the blonde hero tried to continue his story, knowing full well the man could not possibly be hearing him. If he were, it would be a miracle, the kind that just didn't happen to Uzumaki Naruto. Then, when I wake up, I find myself in my 12-year-old body. Okay, I can live with that. I have been de-aged, which happens all the time in the shinobi world. Just ask that puppet master from Suna, or Orochimaru. Trust me, buddy, waking up in a child's body is the least of my problems. He grimaced, his eyes darting to the floor. People trying to hunt me down, and rip out a part of my soul, along with the beast that shares it. Now that's trouble. Anyway, so I died, big deal. I can live with death or not. Wouldn't be the first time this bullshit happened to me. A bolt of lightning flashed through the sky. Naruto shivered. My life is a piece of work, I'll tell you. Naruto hummed. In a way I was kind of glad I died, getting rid of the whole fear of dying part. Plus, I got to see my dad. Naruto scratched his chin in thought, and sat on the wet street floor. It was raining. That was part of the reason why no one was interrupting him, and his conversation with the passed out smelly drunk. At least I think it was my dad. To be honest, it could just have been an illusion. He said his name was Namikaze Minato, the 4th Hokage. But now that I think about it, it's probably just my fantasy talking. I mean, I was pretty angry. A shinobi god, some crazy mofo called Pain or Nagato, just killed the first girl who said she loves me. I know. Me. Can you believe it? Naruto smiled. Me, Uzumaki Naruto, orphan, loser, and village pariah. Heck, I don't even have any redeeming qualities. I shout, I am loud, I am sort of a jerk, and I spend so much time going after Sasuke that sometimes I question whether or not I am straight. Not that there's anything wrong with being gay, it's just not for me. The drunk replied to Naruto with an unconscious fart. Naruto nodded. I know, I have a lot of problems to work out. I'll take it one step at a time. Anyway, so I died, sure, fine, life goes on. But here is the thing. I don't recall going to heaven or hell. Shouldn't I have at least got to see some of my dead ancestors or something? Naruto sighed, his hot breath turned into a small smoke cloud, which was quickly destroyed, as raindrops poured in greater numbers. Anyway, back to the story. I wake up, and what do you know? I am back in my old apartment. I think to myself, maybe it was all just a dream, maybe I never fought Pain, maybe Konoha was never destroyed, maybe I just ate some bad ramen. I get out of bed, pretty much roll out of the mattress, and bust my head on the floor. Then I get up, look around, and you know what I see? I see my legs have shrunk. I screamed, I tell you. I must have woken up the whole neighborhood. Naruto's face looked angry. He pulled up his orange-black pants, which were several sizes too big for him. Needless to say, I thought I was still in a dream, so I ran out of the house screaming my head off that I shrunk, and the neighbors all looked at me like I was mental, or something, and some even asked if I was alright. Naruto paused. See, here is when I realized something was wrong. Growing up, not a single person ever asked if I was alright. The fact that someone took the time to see whether I was okay freaked me out. The drunk sneezed, and scratched his butt. He didn't seem to mind that there was a 12-year-old pacing in front of him. Though, to be fair, he wasn't even aware that there was a rat chewing on his toe, let alone the adult-speaking 12-year-old. I ran so fast, and never stopped to look back. I tripped on the road a few times because my clothes were several times too big. You have to realize that I was still wearing the same clothes I fought Pain with, my Yakuza-style GI, an orange jumpsuit. I know it's not exactly the best ninja wear. Sue me. Naruto stopped pacing, and turned around dramatically, rainwater splashing in all different directions in the dark alley from his footsteps. I stopped by the Hokage Tower, and believe me when I say I had to stop. There were ANBs stationed everywhere. I mean on the rooftop, on the ground, on the very windows. I have never seen so many NBU in my life. I can't believe they were just standing there in broad daylight. I tried to tell them that the old man was expecting me, and you wouldn't believe what happened. He stepped over the passed out old man. The boy was practically talking to his face. They took me to the Uchiha jail cells. That was the moment I realized, hey Naruto, this doesn't feel like Konoha anymore, so I started screaming for them to let go, and some bitch, pregnant with red hair, had the nerve to slam me in the back of the head, and what do you know? I go unconscious. Naruto was seething. Steam was rising where the rainwater fell on his blonde hair. The drunk yawned, and Uzumaki took this as a sign to continue. So there I was, in a strange place, a prison, and I really don't want to go back. Naruto shivered. The things they do to guys like me in prison, can you see this face? No? Well, nasty, unspeakable things happen to brats. The small boy started to sweat. Real bad things happen to softies like me, stuff that yaoi fantasies are made of. The drunk snorted, allowing a few flies to crawl into his mouth. Naruto showed the flies away, and took off the passed out man's vest, and put it over his face, to protect him from the rain. There, that should keep gnats from crawling into your mouth, next time. Where was I? Oh right, so I am in prison. It's a bad place, my friend. I tell you, you don't want to go there. The boy rubbed his bare feet, and continued. They kept me in a cell near the front office, and people kept bringing in more, and more criminals. Eventually some pregnant chick named Mikoto got really pissed that there was a boy in one of the cells, and released me. Naruto smiled. Nice lady that one? The drunk snorted. I am a free man, oh yeah, but I am still confused. How could the Uchiha be alive? I started to go through various theories in my mind. Was I in some parallel dimension? Was this heaven? Was I in some kind of coma, and this was some kind of dream? Or, and this is my favorite part, had I finally gone insane? Naruto barked out in this part, his fangs showing. For a while, as I walked down the street, I thought that maybe I had. It wouldn't be the first time I snapped. Naruto laughed. Then I realized if I had gone crazy I would probably create a more ideal world for my insane conscience to live in. One with lots of Hinatas, Sakuras, Inos, Tentens, Temaris, Kurinais, Ankos. Well, pretty much a world of women, ramen, and all my old friends. But the woman would have to be mine. All mine, Naruto concluded. Shit, that rat is chewing on your groin. Let me take care of that. Naruto stepped on the rat, while simultaneously crushing the man's privates. Sorry. I am such a klutz. Good thing you're asleep. We'll just say someone else did it when you wake up. Uzumaki got back to his tale. So I thought I had finally gone off the deep end. I checked myself into a hospital, and told them I was nuts. The nurses laughed at me, and asked me why that was. I tried to tell them why, and they just laughed, and said I had a very active imagination. It was during the time I left the hospital that I took a look at the calendar. Here Naruto looked afraid, his rain-stained face turning pale. According to the calendar, it was 9 days before the date of my birth. I told the clerk that they had the date messed up, and the clerk told me that my head was messed up. I told the clerk that he could go fuck himself, and he chased me out of the hospital gift shop. So there I was, alone, and afraid, walking down the road of life, and finally coming to the conclusion that perhaps I had traveled through time. Naruto leaned on the wall, and slowly slid down to the floor, putting his hands on his knees, and curling them into his chest for comfort. Now here I am, talking to you because I have no one else to go to. No friends, no family, and no one who even knows my name. I am an existence that doesn't belong here, and yet I am something that could change the future. He raised his head, his sad blue eyes looking at the soaking wet, snoring drunk. What would you do if you could change the future? If you could save those you loved from immense pain? If you could prevent your enemies from becoming your enemies? What would you do if you knew that the world might end? What would you do if you realized the world wasn't such a nice place, but you could make it better? Naruto whispered the last part. What would you do if your very death could save the lives of everyone on the planet? The soaked ninja sighed. Could you do it? Naruto got up, wiped water away from his eyes, and walked out of the alley. 5 minutes later the drunken slob wakes up. There is a bag of money next to him, with a note attached. Konoha Shinobi Academy, Principal's Office. Excuse me, I would like to enroll in the academy. I don't have identification, I can't prove who I am in any possible way, and I don't have any money to pay for the tuition, Naruto told the man in charge of academy administration. He was a tall man, and yet his entire body was covered head to toe in a trench coat. Naruto thought he looked like a slightly older version of Shino. The boy continued his speech. But if you let me in, I'll be the best damn shinobi you have ever seen. He said the last part with utmost conviction. The stoic man raised his eyebrows in amusement. We do not expect children, especially war orphans and refugees, to have identification. The simple fact that you are in this village is all the proof we need that you are a citizen of Konoha. The man tilted his head in thought, considering another factor. Unless you are really a veteran spy into a boy, which I highly doubt, you should know that, young man. Now tell me, why should we let you in this late in the year? Provide a good reason. I need to put down something for your application form. Naruto smiled. The man was giving him a chance. I know several S ranks. I have a chakra core larger than any you have ever seen in your life. My will to succeed is fiercer than Namake's Minato, and I am far smarter than I look. Plus, I have experience in the field. Abiram seemed to smirk underneath his coat, judging by how the collar crinkled, though Naruto could not see it. The Shino lookalike spoke his words with care. Very well, demonstrating one forbidden technique. Just one, and I will bring over a few associates, and we shall see if you are adequate. Make one mistake, one flaw, and you must apply for the next year term. Do I make myself clear, Mr. Uzumaki Naruto? Sorry, I don't have a clan. So you're telling me that I need no proof at all, as long as I can show you right here, right now, that I have what it takes to make it to the Genin. Will you give me a shot at the final year exams with children my own age? No strings attached, no tuition fee, full scholarship? The man nodded. Konoha Shinobi were having a war with Cloud, and IWA. They needed as many ninja cannon fodder to die in the front lines, if only to give their side an advantage. Civilians were withdrawing all their children at a fast rate, and the troops needed to be filled as fast as possible. Though he, Abiram Shibi, doubted the boy, wearing clothes 3 times too big for him, would be able to back up his claim of being able to keep up with the children his own age. Still, he liked the child. He had guts, and looked poor. Sometimes the poor could surprise you. Why not humor the dirty orphan? All I can say is don't go back on your word. Naruto smiled, and made the precise cross-shaped seal that he had been familiar with for most of his life. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Konoha Shinobi Academy, Class 1A. Inuzuka Tsum was not an especially tall woman. If she had to classify herself, she would say she was of middle height, and weighed about as much as most Junin. It wasn't ever her height though that people remembered. Her face was a different story. Judging by one's taste, it could be considered extraordinarily exotic, or exotically monstrous. The woman had spiky brown hair that fell down to her neck, which was held up by a Konoha head protector. Below her small brow was a pair of dark brown eyebrows that sat atop uniquely slitted black eyes that appeared more animal than human. Those bestial narrow slits looked to a person from a sharp, narrow face that didn't have high cheekbones, but instead contained full purple lips, which many suspected that she was born with, and would be correct for assuming so. Though most people immediately forget about her full set of lips when she opens her mouth to reveal rows or razor-sharp teeth that could break bones if need be, and a long tongue that would make a frog blush. If the woman didn't need to stand out any more than she did, one could see that she was in the wrong profession. Her white sundress revealed her swollen belly that laid upon her voluptuous busted body, which continued to be filled with milk, as the little baby, who would one day named Kiba, continued to grow. Currently, Tsum was annoyed. Her friend Abiram Shibi had the nerve to insert a final student into this year's academy graduation test. Okay, class, before you go to recess, please welcome Uzumaki Naruto to our class. Naruto comes from a village somewhere north, a village hidden in the woods. His village was destroyed, and he is a refugee. Please treat him gently, or else. The young woman in the Chunin uniform growled, showing rows of pearly sharp fangs. If I catch one of you punks harassing this boy, I'll feed you to Karamaru, you know I will. The dog behind her bared once, and howled, showing rows of fangs. Thank you, Tsum-sensei. Now that our lovely teacher has gotten the technicalities out of order, I would like to formally introduce myself. Naruto looked around the classroom as he spoke. My name is Naruto. I like ramen. I like my friends, and I like this village. I really like this village. I haven't been here very long, but you people are nice and friendly. He spotted a few familiar faces, a girl who looked like Shizen, and a boy who looked like Irika. I would die for this place, and will defend it with every breath in my body. I hope we can all be friends or rivals in this cruel world, where we still have to be cruel. He bowed. Thank you for listening. I know some of you might be angry that I suddenly appeared out of nowhere to take the exams with you, but rest assured I have already taken this exam in my previous village before it was burnt down. Naruto tried to set the dark aura that Sasuke displayed. I miss my family, and I hope we can all be one big family someday. Some of the girls in the class looked sad. Thank you for your time. Silence met his speech. Even Tsum couldn't say anything. His declaration was well thought out and mature. Tsum was about to tell him to sit in the back, but a serious voice spoke up. The girl closed her mouth when Naruto looked at her, but then opened it again. Sensei, he can sit beside me, there's an empty seat here, a girl with deep purple hair said. Sim smiled, seeing who spoke up. Her hair was tied up into a messy short ponytail that stuck up in the air, and sharp bangs framed both sides of her face. Her skin was olive, and below her beautiful spiky hair were a set of deep yellowish snake-like eyes that looked at Naruto carefully. Her lips were small, and so was her face, but her expressive eyes more than made up for that. Her body was slim, thin from years of living in an orphanage, and surviving on meager rations, though the class did not know that. Purple wasn't a big girl, but she was still taller than Naruto, at least half a head taller in his current form, and wore a leathery thong necklace around her neck. It was wrapped around a small thin collar that rested on a rough undershirt, which was covered in a black loose t-shirt that showed a bit of her cleavage that didn't currently exist, that is. This was matched by tight black pants, which contained her long muscular legs that were currently wearing long fishnet socks that looked almost like a set of pantyhose. She didn't stop looking at him, as he took his seat next to her. Naruto thought she looked familiar, so he decided to introduce himself. Nice to meet you. As you have already heard, my name is Uzumaki Naruto. I know. I heard you, she said softly. Thank you for speaking up. It was getting kind of awkward, he replied. The girl took a moment to think, or at least that's what it looked like to Naruto. Around them the other students were looking at the spiky-haired girl with distaste. Some of the girls looked downright angry at the pretty little girl. Why Naruto was not entirely sure. He suspected that she was one of those loner types. Kind of like him, with people despising her out of a warped sense of habit. The time traveler waited for her name, hoping she wouldn't just brush him away. Too many girls did that in his life. Actually all of them, aside from Hinata. Mitarashi Anko, she said slowly, looking away from him, only slightly, her expressive yellow eyes looking at the blackboard. Don't bother me if you don't have to, Naruto sighed. Okay, this girl was also one off-hose, the type that didn't like talking to people for whatever reason. There could be many reasons. Maybe her parents died, maybe her home life was stressful, or maybe she was just a jerk. Who knew? I guess I just have to break her out of her shell, he muttered, making a shadow clone, which appeared outside of the classroom, and headed out to his new home, to set up his bed. Konoha Orphanage Rooftop. Yuhi Kurenai was 14. She was born from a mother who died before getting a chance to name her premature daughter, and a father who would probably remain a mystery to her forever. Kurenai, unlike Sim, was a tall girl. Her long legs allowed her to tower over the other females in her age group, giving her a more mature look that made it difficult for her to interact with children her own age. Unlike her best friend, Mitarashi Anko, she was the exact opposite of what some people referred to as a loli, and many times she had been hit on by men 3 times her age when she tried to dress outside of her makeshift ninja uniform that she scrounged up from the second-hand shops. Overall, she was quickly growing up to be a beauty, with good marriage prospects in the future, perhaps in the Hokage's son, albeit she might have to settle for the younger one who was a failure, a gentle failure, but a failure nonetheless. Kurenai spent most of her time as the matron of the orphanage. She, Anko, and Yuga were in charge of keeping the younger kids alive when the adults were away. Kurenai hated that all the orphan boys her age went to the academy early, graduated early, and died early. This was the sole reason she had to take up multiple roles of child rearing, repairs, and even sanitation in the orphanage. So it came to a great surprise when it was revealed that the new resident of her orphanage turned out to come in a pack of extremely helpful friendly froggy clones, who made it their sworn duty to help repair the damage in the building before fixing up their owner's room, a very noble and selfless action in her opinion. Teenage Kurenai was impressed. She watched them do their work, until she noticed something odd. So you're all clones, but this doesn't make any sense. You should have all been dispersed by now. Why is that? Kurenai asked. Her red lips turned into a delicate scowl. You've been alive for the past 3 hours. That shouldn't be possible. Then there is the issue with your eyes. What is wrong with your eyes? Why do they look so frog-like? Do you have some kind of infection? Does your owner need to see a doctor? If so, we should leave soon. I don't want you infecting the other kids. Kurenai felt deeply uncomfortable seeing the boy 2 years her junior occasionally catch flies with his tongue. She shivered every time he did that. She couldn't complain, unfortunately, since he was fixing the roof of the orphanage along with a few other clones that looked like a cross between man and frog. She could sense that there was a strange type of chakra infused in the clones, but decided to file that conclusion for another time. We're all Super Kage clones, miss, and the boss told us to fix up this place. He'll be living here for a while, or at least for the next 9 days. What is going to happen in 9 days? The adorable teen Yuhi asked capriciously. Is he leaving the village? The clones all looked at each other, and looked sad. Trust me, you'd prefer not to know, they all said at about the same time. He's kind of going to leave this place forever. It's a bit terrifying when we think about the thing he'll have to fight. The last word was said with ice. Kurenai shivered. Konoha Academy, playground. Back in the academy it was time for lunch. Not surprisingly, no one was willing to sit with Anko, despite her cute looks, and even more adorable personality. Sure, her personality was cold, but it was the kind of cold created out of shyness, not arrogance, and Naruto enjoyed talking to people like that. Sadly, what struck Naruto was how antisocial she was. In the future this was his examiner. His first memory of her was the woman slicing open his cheek, and drinking the thick blood that dripped down. He was so afraid at that time, but excited, as well, now seeing the lonely girl eating by herself on a swing, glaring at anyone that looked at her wrong, put things into perspective, and painted a harsher picture of what type of person she would become. He could see himself in her little by little. When he was nervous, when he was hurt, he would act rambunctious. Before he became so annoying, he was a very silent child. Naruto could already see the kind of loud attitude the girl might possess if she lived that long. In time Anko might one day follow in his footsteps, and be vastly irritating, or was it Naruto who had followed in her footsteps? Time travel made things vastly confusing. Naruto decided to take a seat beside her. This was the last recess any of them would ever have, and he wanted to make the best of it, for her at least. It would be nice for the 13-year-old to have one good childhood memory. Hello, Mitarashi-san, do you mind not running away if I take a seat here? Already looking angry, I see. The girl looked like she was about to leave. Hold on before you start getting up. Let me take a moment to tell you that I am not trying anything. I am not hitting you. I am not trying to get close to you so I can hurt you later. And I am damn sure that I am not after any money you have. Anko suddenly looked insecure. Naruto just realized his mistake. I am not saying you're poor or anything, despite how plain your clothes look. Hey, don't look at me like that. I was just being honest. I am not a bad guy, really. I am not. The tiny Mitarashi was getting angrier the more Naruto talked, but she seemed to hold still. She glared at him with those yellowish-purple eyes, hoping he would stop talking about how poor she looked. She knew that already. She was an orphan after all. War orphans were generally destitute. Fine, you may sit down, as long as you don't pull anything remotely funny. Naruto smiled, and sat down. Funny? I am funny. I am very funny. If you give me a few minutes I can make a good joke. The girl looked away from him, and Naruto's face became serious. How are you doing, Anko-san? I hope you're well. She didn't reply to his question, but he continued. Do you know what I liked about you the first time we met? Anko looked back at him curious. Your determination. You didn't care how those kids looked at you. They're just jealous. She looked away, her cheeks slightly turning red. Don't let them bother you. Anko turned back to the shorter boy. Her expression continued to be angry. Her eyes reddened. I don't let them bother me. I never let them get to me. You don't know anything about me. Don't talk like you actually care. I am sure more than just me cares, and you must care too. Why else would you let me sit here? I allowed you to sit beside me because you don't have any friends, so don't take my kindness in vain. Don't talk to me, not when you can't tell what kind of person I am, what I have been through, and what my class ranking is. They were just jealous, that's all. Or at least that is what she tried to tell herself. The reason they hate me is because I am number one. I am better than them, and I am better than you. Naruto flinched. This was Uchiha Sasuke all over again. Do not think you have the nerve to casually speak to me. We are nothing alike. But then no one was like Naruto. Let me eat my lunch in peace. Inside, though she was hurting, she was a lonely girl. Naruto scratched the side of his head. Apparently he found a very Sasuke-ish girl. He decided to spook her a little. Oh, I know some things about you. He grimaced. In fact, if I were to hazard a guess, I might actually know more about you than what you know about yourself. The girl snorted. She didn't believe him. I have this special ability. This ability lets me see people for what they are, or what they could be. It's a powerful ability, stronger than both the Sharingan and the Byukujin. Do you want me to demonstrate? Anko's lips curved into a sneer. If you lose, you are going to buy me dinner. Only you won't be sharing it with me, just handing over the cash. She paused, appraising him. Judging by the way you look, you don't seem to have anything. But I am not about to let some idiot skimp out a free meal ticket. Alright, I accept your challenge. If you get this correct, maybe, just maybe, you can talk to me again. If you're lucky, that is. Her words turned icy, but there was less hostility in them now. I am far too good for the likes of you. Uzumaki. Naruto got off the swing. He paced backwards and forwards. Mitarashi looked angry, yet amused, but still skeptical. First off, your name is Anko. You like sweet beans, dango, or something like that. That's not surprisingly, perhaps anyone could figure that one out. She scowled at his correct guess. She tilted her head, and one of her soft yet sharp bangs hit her right cheek. Next on the list, you are basically a taijutsu user with a focus on earth techniques such as the use of mud. Your elemental affinity is probably earth if I am correct. She grimaced, touched her snake fang necklace nervously, and bit her upper lip, which Naruto found adorable. Lucky guess, she muttered. That doesn't mean anything. Her face reddened. If you want to talk tomorrow, I'll be here on the swing. Naruto raised his fist into the air in triumph. I am not inviting you or anything, but I'll be here. She got off the swing, showing her pretty right bum to Naruto, who tried not to stare, and ran to the other side of the hill, where the sun was falling. You claim to know something about me. She pointed her small index finger to the boy. Well then prove it. She ran to the other side of the hill, and out of sight. The orphan patted himself on the back for a job well. He took the time to go, and find some of the other children in the school. He eventually found a familiar face. The familiar face was as sweet as honey. The visage belonged to a girl, and the girl, for once, was smaller than Naruto. She had a rosy blush on her pale chubby cheeks, and short black hair that went down to her neck. Her eyes were as black as her hair, and she carried herself the same way Hinata did. The girl had watched the conversation Naruto was having with Anko with interest. She had wanted to say hi to the new students since she didn't have many friends. Most of the students didn't give her the time of day since she hardly ever spoke up, and she would prefer to spend most of her time with adults, like her Uncle Dan, or his beautiful girlfriend, Senju Tsunade. Thinking about Tsunade made a larger blush appear on her pale face. She rubbed hands on her thighs, which were covered in a conservative black kimono that ended almost at her feet, where she wore a pair of small black sandals, similar to Anko's. Unlike Anko, she wasn't good with people, and the slightest contact with others horrified her. She spent most of her life hiding behind her uncle who protected her from the harsher things the world had to offer. The Shinobi Academy setting was certainly not the place for her, and she hoped she could get out of it soon. She was about to leave for home when something called to her from near the playground. Shizen, how are you doing? It's so nice to see you, give me a hug. Naruto ran up to her, both his arms outstretched for a hug. Keep in mind that Naruto looked like he had crawled out of the gutter since his clothes hadn't been cleaned in days, and were literally scraping the filthy crosswalks, since they were several sizes too big for him. Not to mention the fact that he had deep blue marks under her eyes because he hadn't slept, not completely, since coming back to the past, and had been training non-stop to master his hand-eye coordination in his new childlike body, using hundreds of Kage Bunshin. Unsurprisingly, the girl took a look at the almost dead-looking boy, and bolted, screaming for her uncle to save her. Approaching the new kid was one thing, the new kid stalking her was another matter altogether. Anko met up with Naruto, as promised. She thought she had finally found a friend, albeit a very suspicious friend, but a friend nonetheless. He seemed to be the decent sort, and didn't seem to mind that she was top of the class, despite not being from a clan. She thought he was decent. That was until the point he started talking about her personal life. Suddenly he resembled a cockroach. There are times at night that you spend by yourself, you don't cry, but you do things like cling onto your knees, and just look at the wall. Anko was furious. Am I getting warm? Ah, you look angry. Excellent, I am getting close. Let's see, what else? Anko was grasping the chain of the swing so hard that Naruto was sure it was going to snap, despite it being made out of metal, and reinforced with chakra. Right, just calm down, and let me finish. He paused. You want the snake contract because you think if you can use snakes it will improve your ability to fight with your earth. Anko growled. Oh, was that supposed to be a secret? Sorry, maybe I should be a bit more discreet. The swing chain snapped, and she walked towards the boy slowly, her face looking emotionally cold, a paradox in itself. Well then, you are an orphan. Like me, your parents probably died at a young age. This is all an assumption, but I think I am getting close. You want to be an apprentice to Orochimaru because you lack the father figure that you so desperately desire. Uzumaki, stop, just stop. Please, Anko, don't try and punch me. Just sit back down, and let me finish. There is a good girl. Hey, you're frothing at the mouth. That can't be a good sign? Can it? Anko punched the boy in the face. Her cute lips were starting to crack into something monstrous, and Naruto suddenly realized she had fangs. If she bit down on him, he would bleed. Still, he continued. My advice to you is to stand well clear of Orochimaru-san. Anko punched him in the face again. It wasn't working. He wasn't going down. Didn't you hear what I said? I told you to shut up. How dare he talk about her sensei? He had been her patron at the academy for the last year. He was going to take her away into a better life. She was going to be somebody. Had she not worked hard for this moment? Sure, he looks powerful, and all, but I think he is sort of creepy. I don't trust him. Not that I have ever met him before, but there are some bad rumors about him. I heard he does some strange things with those snakes of his. He doesn't, and I would hate for a ridiculously nice young girl, such as you, to get tangled up in something like him. Oh, please don't hit me. I was only making a compliment on your looks. Do you cut your own hair? She didn't answer. I think it's very nice. It would look even better if you didn't hit me so I can see through the dizziness. Anko hit him again, and again. That didn't stop Naruto from talking, even, as blood dripped down his puffed-up face, and his teeth started to get broken to bits. One of his eyes was beginning to turn purple, and swell from her hard jabs. If anything, her brutal treatment of the boy just made his childish voice become darker. He'll take advantage of you, you know? He's that type of person. Anko-san. Anko punched him in the stomach, but that didn't stop Naruto. This is because you are desperate, and also because you're a child. You want to be loved, and you want someone to love you, someone who is too strong to be killed off in this war. Rage boiled to the surface, but this time it was from Naruto. She didn't expect this. Yesterday he had only revealed harmless information. Now he was making her cry. How could he be so cruel? She thought he was a nice person, but she was wrong about him. She was going to talk to Kurenai this evening. Kurenai always knew what to say. Orochimaru is a great man, she said. He doesn't need petty vices. Great man, she says, Naruto muttered under his breath. Orochimaru-san is strong, he is powerful, and he looks wise on the surface. Those are the type of people who are the most dangerous when they are around little girls, especially girls who would do whatever he said. Powerful men have egos, Anko. They crave absolute obedience from those weaker than themselves. He will destroy you. Naruto caught one of her punches when she unleashed another scream, and almost broke her fist when he twisted it, and brought his face close to hers. She was starting to realize that the boy was not what he appeared to be. Naruto's eyes turned to slits, and he looked at her harshly. Trust me, if you give him ground he will have you wrapped around his sick little finger. He let her go. She was still crying, but Naruto continued. If given a chance it might actually be a good idea to say no to the snake senin. He laughed darkly. Sure, it looks impressive on a resume to be his apprentice, but I have an odd feeling that by the end of the week the guy is going to be screwed. His face morphed into a monstrous grin, his wounds slowly healing before her eyes. You want to know why? It's simple really. His teeth continued to sharpen into razors. I am going to be the one to do it. Konoha Orphanage, Nursery. Kurenai was worried about her talk with Anko. The things the girl told her about Uzumaki Naruto were dreadful. Still, the new orphanage resident was willing to help out around the place, and she couldn't refuse him or kick him out. That would just be rude. Uzumaki Naruto slept in the worst part of the orphanage, where the ceiling would leak, and the windows would constantly fall off. At night the storms of Konoha would enter through his window, and make the occupants in the room shiver, praying that their toes wouldn't fall off. It was the reason why Hate was sick. He grew up in that room most of his life, and the consequences were starting to show. The boy was not healthy to begin with, and exposure to such harsh climates only increased his chronic sickness. Luckily, Hate was moved to a different room when Uzumaki volunteered to sleep there. Later that same night, Naruto had created a team of clones to fix the room, invited some of the sick-looking occupants back into the room, and made a small fire to warm up the area. The children were very grateful, and suddenly the boy became their new favorite person, sort of like a surrogate dad. At the moment the hero of the orphanage was helping out one of his future teachers. You're pretty good at changing diapers, Kurenai said. Your clones had a terrible time with them yesterday. Not that I am complaining, but it's a problem when we don't have enough diapers to spare around here. Yeah, don't remind me. I got their memories, remember? Plus you think I was just bad with changing diapers from your point of view, because you have babies of your own, and all, making you the expert, and me the rookie. No I don't, Kurenai said, looking extremely irritated. Do I look like a mother to you? Naruto pictured her in the future, and decided not to answer. Konoha Shinobi Academy, Park. Naruto's most recent attempt of educating Anko on the evils of her future mentor wasn't going as well as he thought. He had cornered the lonely girl in the park, and the results were not going in his favor. He had to chase her down many times before she even relented to talk to him. Do not talk about him like that. You know nothing about us, she screamed. Okay, see, here is the problem. He is already mentally taking control of you. And I am not saying that because I might be a potential enemy. I have had people try, and control my life too. The thing is, the people who controlled my life were actually smart, and nice people, so in the end it worked out fine. Why should I be afraid of him? He is a perfect gentleman, she said, trying to keep herself from stabbing him with her kunai. Here is why. If sexual assault means anything to you, you might seriously consider switching to a female sensei. The worst that could happen is Yuri in that situation, and frankly that's sort of hot. Hey, don't walk away. Anko-san, wait up. Where are you going? Anko didn't turn back, She had enough of his bullshit. Anko continued to give Naruto the cold shoulder for the next day or so. Naruto tried many different methods to appeal to her, ranging from jokes, to insults, then back to jokes again. These only made her angrier at him for insulting her idol, causing her to try and beat him to death again. Naruto was getting tired of trying to convince her that the snake only wanted to experiment on her, and tried to talk to Kurenai about his problem. He found the red-eyed girl to be a good source of information about Anko. She seemed to know all the different approaches to convince the girl to do things, and knew all of Anko's hiding spots in the village when she was upset. Kurenai may have only been 2 or so years older than the girl, but to Anko she seemed almost like a mother/aunt figure which, given their age, wasn't entirely surprising. It still made Naruto cautious around the raven-haired teen, if only to keep suspicion away from him. After all, Kurenai didn't know that Orochimaru was evil, and she might have taken Naruto's plan badly. Naruto spent almost 10 hours straight using his shadow clones to learn as much history, math, and science as possible. When it came time for the written portion of the test, he aced it. The taijutsu part was fairly easy, since Jiraiya had taught him the basics, and even perfected all his gaps and flaws. The genjutsu only required some minor dispelling, which he shrugged off, and the rest were so easy that he was surprised he failed the first 3 times. Okay, Mr. Uzumaki, just do the 3, and wait in the back of the line. Cheat, and I'll bite you, she smiled, showing him rows of razor-sharp fangs. Naruto still thought she looked pretty, however. Start. Naruto sighed, did all 3, and then finished it off with a perfect Kage Bunshin. Some asked him how he managed to create such a perfect copy. Well, my old teacher tried to get me to steal a scroll, a really forbidden scroll. He succeeded, and while I waited for him, I learned it. It didn't take long. Don't look at me like that, Sam-san. I am not lying. I didn't say you were, continued Naruto-kun. Some loved his name. It sounded so adorable, and tasty. It wasn't that difficult. I had a lot of chakra. You have to realize that if I didn't learn at least one from that scroll, I wouldn't be able to pass the exam. Is that some kind of rule in your village? A shy-looking girl, who looked suspiciously like Shizen, asked him. No, our village doesn't have any strange test where we have to learn an S-rank technique. Mainly it was my fault. I failed the test. Hey, don't roll your eyes, Anko. I am not kidding. I actually can't do the normal clone, sadly. So I had to learn something stronger, something that would help me become the ninja I am today. That doesn't explain why you're so good at it. This was said by a girl leaning on the far wall. Naruto couldn't remember if her name was Yuzuki Yagao, but he continued. Ah, that? Well, I have been using it for months. I used to fight S-rank missing needs. No, really, I am not lying. Would you stop giving me that look, Anko? Anyway, I used it to fight my best friend, who isn't dead by the way. I didn't kill him, Yuzuki. Thank you very much. Though sometimes I want to. Don't they die fast? What's so special about that trick? A sickly-looking boy said. Not that I am trying to insult you or anything. It can be used outside of battles for one. That could be very helpful on D ranks, Some commented, looking at him with money signs in her eyes. Ever consider doing any contracting work? I could always use a roof repairman since my husband walked out on us. Sure, why not? You know what? I think I might start some kind of company. Maybe build houses with my clones. He turned to face her, and tilted his head like an owl. So I passed, right? Fire country border. Uchiha Obito was having a strange day today. The morning started out like any other, the only difference being that he met a peculiar blonde boy in ramen hut. The orphan blonde was complaining about a place called Tsuchi, and how the Tsuchi ramen made superior ramen, which only led to the boy being kicked out of the hut. Obito, having nothing better to do, decided to talk to the blonde. The blonde was a talkative brat who seemed to be on some kind of mission to save the world, or at least from his explanation. Obito laughed at the stories he told about fighting gods, and puppet masters, and about his friends. He told Obito about his teacher, and about his old village. Obito thought it sounded so familiar, almost like he lived there himself. Finally the blonde asked Obito about himself. Obito told him a little about his team, and his Jounin sensei. Both explanations got the blonde boy more excited, and Obito couldn't help but tell the kid more, and more about his life. He wanted to know too much about Namake's Minato, the Yellow Flash, and Kakashi, though why the later, Obito didn't have a clue. Obito was reluctant to see the boy leave when his team arrived, and wondered why the boy looked so sad when he saw his teammates. Or did the boy, Naruto, look sad seeing his sensei? Honestly, he wasn't sure. What he was sure of was that he was being followed by someone during their entire mission. It was during the brief moment that Kakashi was given his birthday presents that Obito thought he felt something. Namake's Minato, his teacher, said he felt something, as well, but allowed the strange person to follow. Many times his teacher would try and flash into the bushes, only for the intruder to turn into puffs of smoke. This went on for hours, until his teacher said he was using too much chakra to shun sin and drive out the enemy, and that it was likely that all of the people that were likely following them were shadow clones, so the worst they could do was give away intel. Before they left for the mission, his teacher made an area-wide sweep of wind blades that destroyed as many of the hidden clones as possible, and left his students to complete their task. Quickly their mission ended in disaster when Rin was captured. The two of them were captured by the enemy soon after. Kakashi was knocked out by some kind of hail of rocks, but it could have been worse since he could have been crushed by a boulder. Obito thought their team was going to die since they were all out of chakra. Then a miracle happened, a miracle that Obito doubted anyone would ever believe. He saw a legion of clones, and they did things with chakra that made absolutely no sense whatsoever. The team from IWA was destroyed faster than you can say Shunsin, left broken, in neat piles in front of Obito. It was during their retreat that Kakashi and Rin woke up on Obito's shoulders and asked what happened. Obito decided to change it. Kakashi got off his shoulder, of course, before he told the story. Kakashi, if I told you we were saved by some blonde kid who looked like Sensei, would you believe me? Uchiha, Obito asked. He carried Rin on his back, as they were heading towards home base. He would be having a talk with Minato-sensei about today, make no mistake. Would you believe me if I told you he was wearing an orange jumpsuit, and had frog-like eyes? Kakashi blinked twice, then shook his head, and looked at him again, only to shake his head, for a second time. I think you have been using too many eye drops, Obito. Hokage Tower, Orochimaru was having a spectacular day. He heard news of a powerful genin who could produce a row of shadow clones. The implications of such a discovery were phenomenal, since that indicated a being with immense chakra reserves. If he could turn whoever had such ability to his cause, he would have a powerful plant in the Konoha forces when his plans were ripe. Jiraiya was looking after the Hokage position, switching with Namake's Minato, while Sarutobi was at a meeting with their allies from the smaller villages. Orochimaru thought he should have been the one to handle a place of such importance, but suspected that the third was watching him more closely now, something that disturbed the Snake Sennin greatly. He got Jiraiya to give him the list of Shinobi Academy graduates, especially the ones in Inuzuka-tsu's class. Jiraiya, show me that file on the academy grades for the second time. My eyes must be deceiving me, Orochimaru said. He had a hard time believing that any child could have gotten almost a 150% on the exam. High chakra was one thing, but to utterly ace the written, taijutsu, genjutsu, and tactics section was a whole other matter. Go right ahead, the man said, looking at women in the onsen through the third's looking glass. He looked up at his snake-like friend conspiratorially, and said, don't tell sensei. Konoha Shinobi Academy, rooftop. Naruto knew his luck wouldn't last. Eventually he would meet up with the third or his theoretical father, and they would have questions. He had to delay meeting them, along with his mother, who he suspected was a woman he saw walking out of the hospital named Uzumaki Kushina. He would have to put her out of his mind for now. He had enough suspicion placed on him, as it was, despite all of his paranoia, and careful placements of Kage Bunshins to spy on Danzo and his crew, who would be trouble in the future, or at least that is what Nagato said in his story. He was surprised when the Snake Sennin sprung him some very fortunate news. You are making me your apprentice, along with Anko? The snake grinned. Yes, I can use a genius in a person such as you. Most do not nearly have the talent you do. Your ability will serve me greatly. Join me, and I will give you power. I will give you it all, whatever you desire, as long as you obey. The snake gently patted his head, but his eyes narrowed to dangerous slits so sharp they could cut diamond. Make no mistake though that if you betray me there will be trouble. Anko, and I have special arrangements, and if you gain enough trust, perhaps she will inform you, as well. Naruto laughed. Sure, no problem. I enjoy secrets. I'll be the most loyal servant ever. Oro-sama, sign me up. You can never have enough evil, diabolical plans for power. Whoops, sorry, I was just kidding about the evil stuff. You aren't evil, are you? Even if you were, I won't even tell the Hokage. I hate him too. Naruto was already making plans to murder this man. Inside he wanted to jab a kunai up the serpent's rectum, but he held on to those emotions. If he let them go there would be blood, mostly from the nearby children. Anko would probably be traumatized for life, and he couldn't have that. He needed to save her. Why, he wasn't sure. It seemed like the right thing to do. The Hokage is getting old and weak, Orochimaru commented, happy to have such a sympathetic student. Join me, Uzumaki. I will give you power. True power that the old man cannot. I know he can't give me power. Heck, he doesn't even want to. He's an old bastard. Well, not so old, as he is a bastard if he can't recognize a genius such as you. He bowed. I would be honored to join your cause, and your plans. No, that is too strange a word. I adore plans, especially the kind that involves experiments. The snake smiled. I hope you can provide me some, the kind that involves torture and chaos. Naruto looked at Orochimaru curiously. Did you know I can memorize a whole library with the bunshins? Orochimaru looked at him greedily. Sign this contract, and you will be my apprentice. Naruto whooped, dancing in front of the slim girl and her master. He then put a seal on the contract, though Orochimaru would not realize until later that the blood he put there wasn't his own. Mitarashi Anko said nothing. Inside she was seething. An image of a cockroach, Naruto's face, and her sandals crushing the roach was the last thing she thought about when the two were dismissed. A day went by, and Naruto was still stuck doing all the D-rank missions by himself. Anko and Orochimaru would always be missing during this time, and Naruto wondered what they were doing exactly. Not so much wondering what they were doing in general, he knew about the experiments but what kind of experiments had they started? Tenzu was trapped in some kind of laboratory somewhere in Konoha at this time. Only afterward would the Hokage discover him. Naruto tried to find the lab, but came up short. Naruto never snitched on the two, and didn't tell the third where they were going. It was for this reason that the snake made a trip near Water Country with the two of them. He wanted to test out Naruto's loyalty, and Naruto could not be happier. By the way, if we are going to this island where you want to show me something, do you mind if we stop near Wave? His sensei looked more than a bit amused, and allowed it. His teacher was even more amused when Uzumaki Naruto came back from the ports of Wave with the severed head of a corrupt man named Gato in one hand, and a pretty raven-haired girl named Tizuna Tsunami on the other hand. He saved me from this man's mercenaries. They were going to molest me, but he just came out of nowhere, and blasted them. Then he swept me up, and said everything was going to be okay. I was so afraid, but he told me that I would live a long life, and he was going to get me out of there. She wore a simple white t-shirt, but it showed off some impressive developing bosoms. Anko thought her short shorts were way too short. Gato came in with more men, and Naruto beat them in seconds. Then my hero got even more angry, and started destroying even more of Gato's property. He also handed me this packet of money that Gato has been siphoning off our country. She jumped up and down, making her perky bundles bounce. Anko's eyes followed those of Pei's with jealousy. She wanted those someday. We had a big party for him, that's why it's so late. You're all so lucky to have such a strong ninja like Naruto-san on your team. Tsunami turned to Anko, and said, I am so jealous of you. She kissed Naruto on the cheek, and ran back to the harbor of Wave. Uzumaki, what was that about? Anko asked coldly. She was already reaching for her shuriken. What can I say? Being a hero is in the blood, so, let's go, sensei. Evil mayhem awaits. Not that I think you are up to no good, but if you are, I am not going to tell. No, not me. If anyone finds out that you are doing illegal experiments, then rest assured, the snitch is Anko. Please don't get any closer with that shuriken no. Orochimaru's base, Sea Country. The first thing Naruto did when Orochimaru took him to his base was to pledge absolute loyalty. He willingly put the girls he kidnapped into the prisons, and left them to cry in the metallic cells. Anko did not show any expression while this was happening, and had blank eyes. Naruto looked happy doing his job, and even willingly helped torture some of the men that Orochimaru captured. Orochimaru was so impressed by the blonde that he even allowed the boy to look after the prisoners, a test to see how competent he was. Naruto did his job with absolute perfection. It was done so well that Orochimaru allowed the boy to take a look at his further experiments. Naruto didn't show any fear or disgust at this, which caused Anko to get slightly angry and jealous. Naruto suspected that Anko was not so desensitized to all of this, no matter what she was told. He should have expected as much. She was only 13, after all. Even if Naruto did not show how angry he was, that didn't mean that he wasn't furious. Everything Orochimaru made him do tore him up inside. It sliced and diced his calm interior, and created a hot fire that was going to rise to the surface. Naruto knew full well that if need be, he could take Orochimaru. He had his trump card, both the Sage Chakra and the Kyuubi's Chakra, which mixed together would create something far more terrifying than either of them by itself. Naruto had no doubt that he was a chakra monster, both theoretically and perhaps factually. Not surprisingly, the moment he betrayed Orochimaru was one of the most satisfying points in Naruto's life, in his opinion. You betrayed me. How could you betray me? After all of those fancy speeches about not believing in good or evil, all of those speeches about being a trustworthy teammate, in the end, you are nothing but a liar, Uzumaki Naruto. I should never have let you be my apprentice. I should have known you would pull something like this. I told him everything, Uzumaki, what you said about me. He won't let you leave here alive, Anko said. She looked slightly guilty. Anko, let us leave him to be tortured by my servants. They will not let him get a wink of sleep. They will rip out the bones from your legs, pull the marrow out while you are awake, and violate you in ways that will make the Uchiha prison seem like a daycare center. Do you see these creatures beside me? These creatures made of scales? This is my base, and this is where I develop my swamp monsters. They will devour you, boy, after turning your flesh into pus. The tall man left, but Anko stood there, hesitant. You brought this on yourself. Orochimaru-sama is doing nothing wrong. He is doing this for the good of the village. I am not sure he will come back for you though. But he is a good man. He is an evil man. He has been keeping a child named Isarabi trapped in stasis for years. Anko looked uncomfortable. I don't know why you freed this subject called Isarabi, and honestly I don't care. I want you to know that I hate you. I want you to know that I despise you. You, Naruto, said that he would control me, but I see now that it was you who was trying to control me. Anko, don't do this. Naruto's smile turned grim. He was chained to the wall, but was relaxed, even if he looked beaten up badly. Anko, you are better than this. This man is taking in innocent little girls, and transforming, no, mutating them into insane beasts. You're lying, Uzumaki, she said, fighting down her intense guilt. He wasn't lying, and she knew it. He is trying to develop a cursed seal that will eventually drive all its users mad. Don't you see that he will place one on you, as well? Believe me when I say that I am trying to protect you. You may not know me, but I know you. I have only met you for a little while, but I can see that you are a good person. Guilt was crawling up her skin like thousands of spiders. This boy said he cared for her. He said it with such conviction that she wanted to scream. She wanted to kill him, if only to stop those beautiful blue eyes from looking at her. I can see that you want to protect the village. I can see that you think that protecting the village means following the Orochi shitface. But that isn't the case. Please let me go, or if you won't let me go, run. Run, as far as you can. Her body was shaking. Didn't he think she suspected as much? They had only met, they weren't even friends. Why did he care? It hurt her more that he cared. Why couldn't he just be selfish? Why couldn't she hate him? It just wasn't fair. She wanted to despise him, but the more he talked, the more tears fell down from her large snake-like eyes. Anko, if you help him, you are going to destroy lives. For a moment Naruto thought he saw the girl almost wail, but she hugged herself. She looked to be in such profound misery that he felt bad for making the girl feel this way. I will follow my master. He is everything to me. I don't even trust you. Sensei does not trust you, and you know what? That is enough for me. The more I talk to you, the more you are trying to poison my mind. I am leaving you now. Naruto panicked. This was going so wrong. Anko, don't walk out that door to him. He will curse you. If you don't watch your back, he will give you a fate worse than death. She didn't turn back. Listen to me. I am not saying this because I am tied up in chains that I cannot break, he continued to shout, spit flying out of his mouth. He was starting to look like a fox-like beast. I am saying this as a friend. You may not think we are friends, but I do, Anko, and I will not let my friend die. Remember what I said, I love my village, and I love the people in it. Anko, don't shut the door, Anko. She slammed the door behind her, and didn't look back. Anko was sealed 2 hours later, and the curse marks spread through her body, and she wailed. In her screams she constantly apologized to Naruto, the boy who tried to save her. Orochimaru's base cell, Mitarashi. Anko wanted to die. I trusted you, sensei. I gave you everything I had, and more. This is what I get for loving you. This is what I get for believing in you. Why do this to me? Why abandon me? Her mind was even more of a mess. Why torture me? Why don't you love me? Why? Sensei, Anko, you were nothing to me. You never were. I have many such, as you, and believe me when I say that I do not need another failed product. Failed product? The little girl wailed. Is that what I was? He smiled. I can make, and break many more of you, and I could care less. I may be too harsh, but this is reality. Let me teach you this lesson. It is a good lesson. This will only make you stronger. Hate me, Anko. Your hatred will make you strong. Anko's eyes lit with such fire, he thought it was going to burn out from her eye sockets. That is right, Anko, show me that face. That face, I love it. Bare your fangs at me, and let the curse seal devour you, that's good. Your blood is boiling, you want to kill me, you want to murder me, you want me to end. Do it, let it take you over. A giant boom interrupted this generic evil rant, spewing smoke and ash. From that concentrated ash came wandering the figure of the boy they had left to torture. He did not look happy. Anko, I am disappointed in you. I thought things would be different, but I guess I still have to work on how to change people. He shook his mop of blonde hair. Maybe just killing him would have been for the best. He turned to the stunned snake. Oh, you're probably wondering how I got out. Well, take a look at my arms. Here. I will hold them out to you. The snake looked away, and Anko looked at them with horror. See, I couldn't break out of the chains, so I cut off my arms by chewing at them. Freaky, isn't it? Don't look so scared, Orochimaru-san. I have you to thank for it. Blood poured down the boy's clothes. It ran down his legs straight through to his feet. The coppery smell filled the air. His eyes looked dangerous, and his breath smelled like death. Every tooth in his maw was sharp, ready to tear, ready to kill. He grinned at the snake with the smile of a predator. Anko was more afraid of the boy than her powerful teacher. She cried though, seeing the blood continue to drain out of the boy's severed arms. She could see the bone. How much pain he must be in, she had no idea. I loved how Europace tortured me for the past few hours. I loved how they put things inside of my stomach, and let the creatures move around. They took out so much of my blood. I am sure that I was left with nothing but a rotting piece of skin. He pointed to the hole in his stomach with a severed arm. To the serpent's amazement, it looked like his arms, and the hole was starting to regenerate. Don't worry though, I got my blood back, in plenty, when I killed and ate them. Border of Sea Country. Anko had no idea what happened back in the base. All she could remember was the head of a giant fox trapped in the locked room where Orochimaru stood, or at least, where he stood before the image of the red fox appeared in her flashback. When she woke up, it was on the back of Uzumaki Naruto. She asked him where his teacher was, and he turned to her, and smiled. In a better place. She didn't like the way his tone sounded so cheerful, she didn't like how his clothes were covered in blood, and she especially didn't like how he was carrying a bag on his shoulder, the same bag he used to carry at his head. She didn't ask him what was inside of the bag. A part of her already knew, and another part of her was screaming for her to run away from the boy, as fast as possible. He had taken everything away from her, everything she had worked so hard to achieve. All of those years hoping to become an apprentice to a powerful ninja, to be somebody. It was all gone, gone like dust in the wind. She beat on his back, while he carried her back to Konoha. She cried, and wept that this was all a terrible dream, but all he would say was it was real, and smile at himself, as if he had played the part of a hero, as if he hadn't crushed her heart. When he took her back to her home, took her back to Konoha, to a hospital, she told him she wished he were dead. His reply was simple. Everybody wishes I were dead, Anko, including me. No wait, especially me. But I am just too stupid to listen. Konoha. On the roof of the Konoha orphanage, 3 girls were having a nice day. They were talking about the new kid who had moved into the orphanage, and how his contributions had helped them by leaps and bounds. Naruto was a mysterious character at best, and probably a spy at worst, but he was a friendly spy. The girls had no illusions that they wouldn't have to report the boy's actions to the Hokage soon, considering all the times he would spend training in the forest with S-rank jutsu, and sending off his clones outside of the walls of Konoha. Who knew what those clones were up to? And the report that Uchiha Obito gave about being saved by someone who matched the description of Naruto only made the boy a larger target of their suspicions. Still, his clones were able to do the work of 100 men, and the way the broken-down orphanage, well, more like a former broken-down piece of garbage, looked currently. She couldn't find it in herself to report him, not until he finished reading how to install the plumbing. Kurenai, the clones seem to be shrinking. It's like something is sucking the chakra out of them, Shizen commented, eating her ice cream. The 3 girls were still sitting on the roof. Another purple-haired girl, Yagwa, joined them, eating a sundae out of a cup. You think something happened to Uzumaki-san? Kurenai shrugged. Possibly the clones have done more for this orphanage than the last 3 builders together. They replaced the toilets, fixed the holes in the roof, installed new walls plus doors, and she smiled. They played with the kids. So why do you hate him? I don't hate him, Shizen. I just don't trust him. Why? Yagwa asked curiously, wrapping her long tongue around a tasty, vanilla-covered banana. Anko doesn't trust him, she said finally, and then sighed. He cries in his sleep, he mumbles things that terrify the children, and they practically run out of the room when he has nightmares. I wake up in the middle of the night trying to calm the kids down when the boy starts raving about saving the world, and giant demons. There are times he talks about shinobi gods. I am telling you, there is something terrifying, and not quite right about him. Konoha Shinobi Academy. The Jounins of Konoha were busy trying to close up all the information networks Orochimaru had created. Many of them led to a man named Danzo, and even more led to different sectors of other villages, especially IWA. The fact that Naruto was the one who flushed out the spy's identity did not go unnoticed by the higher council. However, the war kept them from rewarding him with a position he so rightly deserved. Naruto was patting Tsume's stomach. He felt the baby kick a few times, and giggled every time Tsume noticed. Tsume may not have known Naruto for very long, but his interest in her child was heartwarming. He would always ask about his, or her, health. Not even her deadbeat husband asked her that. She was so glad he was gone. But who would replace him now? If only Naruto-kun was a few years older. Shit, I can't believe what went down with the Snake Man. Looks like we'll have to give you a transfer, Tsume barked. Okay, head to the Konoha orphanage. There are 2 new genin coming up, some genius named Itachi, and Kurenai. Her last team just died, and they are going to cycle her into your team. Good luck, kid, and sorry about the fuck up with Orochi God, I hated that bastard growing up. She slammed her fist on her other hand. Who didn't see that coming? I mean seriously, he is like the archetype of a classic evil villain. He wreaked evil. Shit, they actually let kids near that pedophile. Honestly, I don't get the old bastard of a Hokage sometimes for letting scum like that walk around here. Well, he is gone for now. If shit like him comes near my little Hana, I will tear that fucker up. How is your daughter, by the way? Thank you for asking, kid. She's a mean bitch, that one, so her training is going along nicely. Gaki, I hope she makes friends with kids half as polite as you, cause her tempers through the roof. Any normal guy would punch her for half the shit she says. She kissed him on the cheek, and gave him a feral smile. Have to go. Don't let Anko get you down, she is just upset with the betrayal. The girl is going to have a hard life ahead of her, but I am guessing a young strong kid like yourself might help her out a little. She paused, and then laughed. Even if I have no idea what kind of person you are, you sure as hell must be something if you can blow up the snake asshole's base. See ya around, kiddo. She teleported away from the field, and let Naruto slump down against a tree. About a minute later, his 2 teammates arrived. Kurenai came dressed in a white short-styled kimono, and didn't seem to wear the makeup she would be wearing in the future. She did have red lips, however, and had those striking red eyes that made her enemies tremble. Her dark wavy hair was much shorter, but just as beautiful. The curls fell bountifully down to her back, and she walked with her hips swaying from side to side. Whether this was for seduction purposes, or just habit, or just the fact that she had big hips, Naruto wasn't sure. The only thing he was sure of was that her chest was starting to develop, unlike Anko, and she looked furious when she saw him. Kurenai must have heard about what happened with Anko, mostly from the snake apprentice herself. Anko-chan is going to murder you. This was the first thing she said to him, not hello, or how he was doing with his healing arms. I have no idea what happened in the last mission, but you have hurt my best friend. I am willing to let you explain yourself because apparently you are some kind of hero among the jounin, but what you did to her, what you said to her, has changed her forever. The word Orochimaru makes her cry now. She tore off all his letters from her wall, and burned her supplies. The supplies she got from Orochimaru-sama. Naruto failed to see how that was a bad thing. Perhaps Yuhi Kurenai was a moron? Really, maybe Anko is just growing up. I doubt I had anything to do with this. And don't go around asking what happened at Oro's base either, Kurenai. Maybe this is just a phase, ever thought of that? Common fact is that girls are way more mature than guys, and it's starting to show, Naruto replied, trying to think of a better explanation, as Kurenai's blood-red eyes became darker. She is not like this, something is wrong with her. Anko isn't leaving her home, and she isn't visiting us at the orphanage. You are going to pay, I guarantee it. Uzumaki Naruto, this is my declaration, as your teammate, and enemy. Naruto clicked his teeth, and looked at his second teammate, and a wide smile fell on his face. He ran down to little Itachi, and gave him a large hug. The boy didn't even protest. You are so cute. Kurenai, isn't this the most adorable boy you have seen in your life? Feel his cheeks. I can just gobble him up. I can't believe how small he is. Can you believe he is a genin? Can you? I am going to protect you so much, little guy. No one will harm you. Kurenai continued to look annoyed despite how he tried to distract her. Naruto tried harder. No one. Kurenai, here, hold him. Don't be shy. He isn't even protesting. Hey, look at his cheeks. He is blushing. I think he likes this. He doesn't get hugs at home, I am guessing so. Oh, I can't believe Itachi is this cute. He has his mini ninja uniform, and everything. If I was half as cute as this brat when I was his age, I could get away with murder. Not that I committed murder. Put me down, Uzumaki-san, said the blushing boy. Naruto was about to do just that, when Itachi surprised him. But you may hug me, a little longer. Naruto hugged him until their last teammate arrived. Some strange boy named Mato Guy, followed by an even stranger feminine-looking sensei who called himself Yamanaka Inoichi. Hokage Tower. Everything was looking up for the substitute Hokage Jiraiya. So far, no real damage had occurred in the village. He thought he was doing a fantastic job until two old farts had to ruin his day with a bit of realism, and show him how careless, how foolish, his idiocy was, and how he hadn't noticed the boy looked exactly like his student running around in his village destroying things in the forest of death with S-rank jutsus. The ANBU tried to dismiss this problem. They confronted the rascal, and he left with very much confusion. When asked to stop, the boy and his clones would just continue to destroy things, claiming that they were preparing to fight something in a few days, a being of infinite power and wisdom that would crush the citizens of Konoha like ants. In the end, the team decided that the boy was just suffering from some kind of mania, and it showed. Plus, kids have big imaginations these days, and it was nice to see such work ethic in young people, especially when there was a war going on. That didn't mean that they could ignore Naruto, however, as the Toad Sage was about to find out. Jiraiya, as the interim Hokage, you should take a look at this boy, Kohara said, handing the man a file on Uzumaki Naruto. Our sources have no idea where this boy came from. At first we just assumed he was a war orphan, but that isn't the case. No orphan records were ever filled out. There was powerful electromagnetic kinetic activity near the slum region. The locals claimed that he just appeared out of Uzumaki Kushina's apartment, and ran out screaming about shrinking. It wasn't a big secret that Jiraiya despised the two old folks who tried to control his life. He had nothing against them personally, but the way they carried their jobs out annoyed the tall man to no end. They always talked about rules and regulations, but were more than willing to break them if need be. Jiraiya and Sarutobi knew full well that many of the funds of Konoha were being siphoned away by these two members, and into Danzo's gnarled hands. It gave the Toad Sage no small amount of pleasure to displease them, like right now. Well, we can't do anything about him now, or any time soon, Jiraiya said lazily, reading porn, and trying to ignore the other two who couldn't stop shaking with anger. I just gave his team a mission, Konoha Gates. Anko wouldn't leave her room, not even to eat. Whatever happened back in Orochimaru's base had a deep effect on her. Fortunately, she wouldn't be suffering a seal forever since Uzumaki had gotten her to Konoha Hospital in time. But that didn't change the fact that it was Naruto who Anko would mumble about in her sleep. Kurenai spent many nights sleeping in the same bed as the smaller girl, making sure she was alright. She allowed Yagwa to take charge of the children. She didn't think it was a good idea, but there weren't many options. Anko was her best friend. The two were stuck together at the hip, both proud and stubborn kunoichi, both unrelenting in their desire to succeed, and both extraordinarily loyal to one another. That was one of the reasons she couldn't stop glaring, detesting, and absolutely hating the boy Uzumaki Naruto, who, despite looking injured since both his arms were covered in bandages, didn't seem to be too affected by what happened to Anko. Come on, hurry up team, we are heading off to Hidden Mist to escort this guy. Mr. Saizo, I am glad we can be of some help. You don't have to explain to us what you need to do in Mist Ash. As long as you are there safe and sound, while paying us, we'll keep our mouths shut. Naruto had paid this drunk to hire himself for an escort mission to Hidden Mist, the same place where Mizukage lived. If he could find a way to kill that man while he was still a child, maybe, just maybe, he could make something out of this. Maybe he could save Haku? I still think we should ask him about our mission. I don't trust him. Haven't I seen you passed out on the street? Kurenai questioned. Why do you have to go to Hidden Mist? All you did was hire us to go there. You didn't explain your purpose. That is the point. Did someone pay you? That is it, isn't it? Sensei, I honestly think this is a trap. She turned to Inoichi. Teacher, we should turn back. We have to go back, as soon as possible. Anko needs me right now, and the way Naruto and Saizo keep looking at each other is suspicious. Now, we can't know that. This may be my first team, sure my promotion is questionable at best, and I should probably go back to working as the torturer and interrogator as soon as possible. He looked around for Naruto. Having as much faith in this man as Uzumaki, he did sniff out that traitor Orochimaru, and left Anko crying in her room, never leaving, not even for food, and believe me I don't like him, Kurenai replied scathingly. Hidden Mist Kage Tower, Momochi Zabuza, Terumi Mei, and Hashigaki Kisame thought they had the worst jobs on the planet. Guarding the Mizukage was the most boring job in the world. For starters, they were pretty damn sure the man was near indestructible. Not only did he have a tailed beast sealed in his stomach, and was considered to be absolutely insane, but his advisor, some guy in an orange mask, seemed to always be one step ahead of any assassins that may try and harm him. The advisor just appeared one day, and took over much of the administration duties. At first no one had noticed him since there weren't any big changes being made to the running of the village, But when certain bloodline clans started to find their weapons, wages, and lands being slowly taken away through legal means, they started to revolt. Mist wasn't involved in the three-way war between the lands of fire, lighting, and earth. They had their own problems to worry about. With the way administrations were taxing the bloodline clans, and ordering random assassinations of important members, things were probably going to go straight to hell before it got any better. Momochi had a suspicion that things might go back to normal if someone were to assassinate the man who many of the swordsmen suspected was controlling their kage, but knew that would not be a good idea. If given the option, he would bide his time. Kisame thought killing the daimyo might solve their problem, since the new daimyo would help choose the new Mizukage, and was already arming himself for the job, despite the fact that Tsubosa told him it was a very bad idea. No one said the Sharkman was a genius, and it showed when the head of the local daimyo came floating down a river one day, and Kisame was starting to be watched by their NBU. So when a blonde-haired assassin blew into their tower, made hundreds of shadow clones mixed with strange chakra, and went berserk on the kage floor, they weren't exactly so enthusiastic to aid their leader. Kisame, shouldn't we stop him? Asked Tsubosa. Honestly, I am not even sure what we're supposed to do. There are literally thousands of him, and that weird toad-like eye he has is probably a blood limit. Maybe we should see how this plays out. Then the battle got stranger. Are you seeing what I am seeing, Hashigaki? Mamachi, if you mean him transforming into a giant fox, and going toe-to-toe with the Mizukage, yes I am. Outside Hidden Mist, Kurenai was furious. The boy had done it again. I don't believe this. No matter how you look at it, this can't be real. Boo, you snuck into Hidden Mist, and killed the Mizukage, Kurenai shouted. Her eyes were on fire. Guy backed away from her. From Guy's memories, though most of these consisted of head traumas, Kurenai was calm growing up, so seeing her like this made him afraid. You left us near the front gates, and battered your way into the Kage Tower, where you blew yourself up into 1,000 clones, and assassinated the Mizukage. Itachi almost peed his diapers at the sound of her scream, her red eyes burning. Killing waves were coming off of her like the ocean. She said this part so quietly that they barely caught it. Why is that red-haired girl hanging over you? Sorry, this is Mei. Mei, say hello to my team, Naruto smiled. The girl was about the same height as Naruto, for once, but seemed to be around Kurenai's age. She had beautiful green eyes, and one side of her red hair was covering her eye, while the rest of her long rosy hair fell down to her knees. She rubbed her developing upayas, which were destined to get even larger, as time went on, like Kurenai's, on Naruto's shoulder, which got another glare from the brunette. Mei put her cheek on Naruto's head, while smiling up at the taller Yuhi. She didn't particularly like Naruto, but teasing Konoha girls was fun. They always thought highly of themselves. Bringing them down a peg or two would do them some good, or at least piss them off a bit. Believe me, when he first came in, me and the other apprentice swordsman practically stabbed him to death. He wouldn't stop though, so we tried to ice him, and the ice users couldn't get him either. No matter what we did, he was unstoppable. He made some strange spinning sphere, and broke through all the groups of shinobi that came his way. So, why is Naruto alive if he did all that? Guy asked. It turns out later that most of those guys were under the control of the Sharingan. A Sharingan user was taking control of our Kage. So, figuring that out, we attacked, and it was Naruto-kun here who saved us all by turning his eyes into frog's eyes, and bringing out more energy, and literally blowing up the tower with some superpowered jutsu. I can't believe that he prevented a genocide that was going to occur. He saved us, he saved and my family's life. And believe me when I say that I would marry this boy if I could. Let's not get too hasty. Come back here someday, Naruto-kun. She kissed Naruto, and left him in a daze. The big opaque crimson had left the group, with her large hips seductively swaying, making Guy and Inoichi look at Naruto suspiciously. Especially when they got a Konoha carrier hawk ordering the immediate arrest of the imposter, Uzumaki Naruto. Konoha prison. Anko left the hospital. She wasn't amused. The girl didn't know what to do, and that made her situation worse than anything. She tried to find that boy who saved her, but she couldn't. He was apparently on trial for not following orders. Anko, I am glad you are out of your house, but I really think we should stay away from that Naruto person, Jabwa commented. It's for your own good, Kurenai commented. He's not what he seems. He may have saved you from Orochimaru, but he has his own agenda. I don't care what the higher-ups say. The longer that boy is alive, the longer he is a threat to the village. You should be trying to get rest, not visiting him. Anko, are you listening to me? I don't know about that, Kurenai. I think I might have been wrong. I talked to the psychologist today, and he told me about the same thing Uzumaki did. I was wrapped around that bastard's fingers. I wasn't a person to him, Kurenai. If Naruto hadn't pulled me out of there before the curse seal became permanent, I don't know what I'd do. The three girls hung around outside of her room in silence. Kurenai eventually sighed. Get back inside, I'll go see where he is. He's probably out causing trouble again. Yagwa, take my shift. I have to find that brat for Anko's sake, and I have a few questions of my own. Back in the Uchiha prison, things were a bit more interesting. How long will I be in this prison? I am not a traitor or spy or anything. I know it looks very suspicious, but you can trust me. The other occupants of the cell laughed. Naruto ignored them, and touched his small belly. Itachi, do you mind getting me a drink of whatever? No, I am going to assume that you shaking your head at me is a huge nah. He sat on the floor. Guess I am stuck here drinking my own piss. Itachi looked like was going to vomit. No, sorry, I am kidding. This isn't funny, Naruto-san. The third is going to be here later this evening, and he is going to question how you were able to sneak into Hidden Mist and outrun the Mizukage. Sensei tried to explain that you were some kind of hero, but they are going to interrogate you anyway. Please, get some rest. Later tonight, I will return and bring you back some food. He paused. How is prison? While I was sleeping, some guy tried to put stuff up my bumhole. What do you think? Itachi, you let him escape. Why would you do that, sweetie? She rubbed her pregnant belly while bending down to look at her son in his twin Sharingan eyes. You barely even knew him, yet you did so much for him? Please let me know why you thought allowing the boy who we were going to question escape was such a good idea. Behind Mikoto was a very pregnant Nara Yoshino, along with Inoichi's wife, and Chuzu's wife. Yoshino-sen walked all the way here to hold him down. Itachi, you have caused us so much trouble. You really shouldn't have done this. What am I going to do with you? We sent Teen Yagwa after him. Sum is at the hospital checking out her baby, and even with all this chaos she refuses to help out. Why? The kid, Uzumaki Naruto, said she had a cute little girl. I know, Hana is one ugly girl. But that isn't the point. Mikoto turned back to Itachi. We'll need your help, can you help us find him? I don't think I have a choice, but mother, please stay in the village. I don't want the baby hurt. So sweet, Mrs. Akimichi cooed, hugging the boy to her pendulous boobs. Itachi fainted from lack of air about a minute later. Unknown location, route. His earliest memories consisted of darkness. Wherever his caretakers kept him, there wasn't a hit of light. Sometimes he would see flashes of something in the distance, and hear vibrations, but aside from that, he could neither see nor feel anything. He wasn't sure how he learned how to talk, and didn't understand how he got to understand those who took care of him, but he knew one thing. He wasn't normal, he was special. When he was old enough to crawl out of his dark cage, they ran experiments on him. He didn't know who they were at the time. All he could remember was an old man with a bandaged hand, his face covered with the same material. The man would sometimes ask about his progress, and then go away for a time. His caretakers continued to take blood samples from him, and test him to see if he was okay. He was alright, he knew that. They knew it too, and he began to suspect there was something they weren't telling him. As the boy grew up, he saw more people testing him. They did blood tests, and transfusions, although at the time didn't know what they were. He didn't know anything about DNA, and knew nothing about the markers placed in his cells in an effort to track his survival. He had no idea of the blood samples that continued to be pumped into the man with the bandaged face, but the boy was no fool. The boy knew he was food. The boy knew he was trapped, and he knew that to the people in the experimental base, he was nothing more, and nothing less than a lab rat. He had seen them before, seen how they were poked, prodded, and dissected. Just like him, he began to grow angry. Resentment and hatred festered in his soul, and it built up. He wanted to be human, he wanted to feel alive. He wanted a name, and Tenzu named him. Tenzu, the boy who had the power of the first Hokage, and he didn't even know it. The experiments become more difficult, more challenging, and more painful. He cried the first time they pulled the marrow out of his bones to transplant it into the man with the bandaged face. He cried when they told him that if he didn't willingly cooperate, he wouldn't get any food, and he cried when he realized that killing himself wasn't possible, because he was guarded in his dark room, destined to become the most powerful man in Konoha, and yet only to feel like the weakest. He was starting to feel his life wasn't worth living, until today, when the bars of his cell slowly creaked open. Who are you? Little Tenzu asked. Small hands wrapped around the small boy's shoulders, and pulled him out. Not important brat. God, what have they done to you? Quick, we have to get out. Can I leave this cage? Tenzu asked. Yes, you can now. I've been stuck here for so long. But people fed me before, now no one feeds me. Where is the master? Is he angry? Naruto felt annoyed. That's all well and good, kiddo, but seriously, we have to. Am I in trouble? Tenzu asked. I didn't mean to cause any trouble. Please do not hurt me. I am not mean or anything. I've been a good boy. Kid, the only one in trouble is me. Naruto threw some clothes at the naked child, and ran to open the door. Do me a favor, and don't tell anyone you saw me. Yeesh, who am I kidding? Just get to the Hokage, and explain to him what Oro-san did to you, now scat. Yamato ran. Naruto ran the other direction, down to the tunnels where Danzo was getting ready to leave for Ami to destroy some group of peacekeepers led by a terrorist named Gihiko. Danzo had no idea that one Uzumaki Naruto was tagging along. So we are in agreement, my troops, and your troops will destroy Gihiko and his minions, Salamander Hanzo said. We just need you, Danzo, to stay in the back, and we'll use your soldiers if we need backup. He glanced at the teams of men. I'm shocked you brought this many men with you. I had no idea you had this many to spare, given how you had to move in secret. Danzo didn't want to let the man know that he had an odd suspicion that not a single one of them were his men. At some point during the trip he had used the Sharingan to look at the men, and what he saw had horrified him. Hidden rain. Naruto didn't wait till Nagato summoned the King of Hell. Instead he went on the offensive to literally corner Hanzo with hundreds upon hundreds of clones. It was raining in hidden rain, and each of those orange blurs were out for blood. The clones all knew how to use wind manipulation, and combined it with the weight of the rain to summon down Kaze no Yaiba with a little bit of liquid ice. Needless to say, the dense and extremely sharp blades were a dangerous technique that tore apart the limbs of most of Hanzo's men. That didn't mean that Naruto was able to get away from the battle scot-free. If anything, he was the one who suffered the most damage since Hanzo tried to hunt him down with his infamous long-distance Shansen, only for Nagant to appear before him and tear his head off, and place it on a pike made of ice. Thank you so much. You saved Yahiko. What can we ever do to repay you? Anything you need, anything. Nagato, can you heal his arms? They look badly injured. Has he been sawing them off or something? There are parts growing back. What is that? Nagato, hurry! Nagato knelt down in the rain. He gently patted Naruto's head. I do not believe I have ever seen someone such as yourself. You managed to smuggle Kanan out of there. It was then just a matter of time to fight back against Danzo and his goons, though I am shocked that Danzo had no idea that his army was really just your Kaigabunshin's. What is your name? Naruto, Uzumaki Naruto. Now, if you will excuse me, there are about 100 Konoha Hunterines who are out for blood. If you wouldn't mind explaining to them that I am some kind of hero, and that now that Hanzo is dead, and you are the Amikage, I would greatly appreciate it. He fell unconscious. It was then that Yagua's team found Naruto, and arrested him. She had seen what he had done, and felt sad doing this to him. Nagato tried to stop this at once, but Naruto's hand touched his arm while he held onto him. His eyes slowly opened. Don't hurt her, she's just doing her job. Yagua felt a flush on her face, realizing that the boy was only thinking for her own safety, despite how dead tired he looked. She wanted to know more about Naruto, and realized that she would have to have a talk with Kurenai and Anko when they met up. Konoha, see Itachi, this is why you shouldn't do good deeds. They just aren't worth it. You save a country from committing genocide, then help overthrow a dictator in hidden rain, and this is what you get. It's so depressing how we treat heroes now. Back in the ancient days, you slay a giant demon, and suddenly everyone calls you God. What does a guy have to do around here to get an ounce of respect? Or fair treatment? Yes, I like the latter one much better. Do not worry, Naruto, the council will let you out in 3 days. Itachi handed him some food through the bars. I believe they are assigning you to another team, Shizen's team, led by her Uncle Dan. Perfect, I think I got my next mission, Naruto said, smiling. Hey, can you get your mother to bring me some of her cakes? Those are really nice. Also, how is the baby doing? Very well, thank you, Itachi said, pleased that the boy always asked about his soon-to-be-born little brother. Naruto Nizin, here is the box of ramen you wanted. Tenzu walked in carrying a crate of the stuff. It was twice his size, and 3 times as wide. It was heavy, so it took me some time, but I hope you like it. I don't know if I got the right flavor or not. Meh, ramen is ramen once it's in water. You want to stick around and eat? Tenzu generously nodded. The 2 genin, and 1 pre-genin sat down to have their meals. Itachi had to feed Naruto though, since he was wearing a straitjacket, and Tenzu had to wipe the slop that fell onto him while he chewed. Still, it beats hunger. Jiraiya, have you read the report on Uzumaki Naruto? He asked angrily. Why didn't anyone find it an important topic to tell me there was a genius child turning the world on its axis rotting in the Uchiha military jail? The fact that he looks like Minato, and carries Kushina's last name is secondary, however. I would assume someone would have sent him to a psychologist after he cut his arms off to escape Orochimaru's lab. The third was going to kill his student. Jiraiya's irresponsibility had reached an all-time high. He had excused his student's perverted tendencies and laziness, but the younger man had gone too far. Jiraiya decided to do the wise thing in his life for once. He decided to shut up, and not make an asshole-ish comment. Outside Uchiha military prison, there he is, girls. Get him! 3 girls tackled the bandaged boy as soon as he left the Uchiha military prison, which was located right next to the town proper, allowing for a relatively decent crowd to watch the spectacle. Naruto growled something about Itachi setting him up, but allowed the girls aged 14 to 16 to tie him up. He could easily break through the chakra strings, that he had no doubt of, but figured he owed it to the girls to hear them out. You have much to pay for, mister. You're not going to escape until you explain to us what is going on, Kurenai said. The last year he still hadn't forgiven Naruto for making her look like the villain after she shouted at him for going off to Mist and saving their village. Mist was supposed to be a neutral village, yet now they were Konoha's allies due to Naruto's interference. The fact that the Mizukage was now revealed to be a Sharingan user had also been useful information. The even bigger point that the war was almost over with the addition of the Mist swordsmen and women, including Mei, had resulted in IWA being pushed back to their borders at a much faster rate. And all of this was the result of Uzumaki Naruto, who had absolutely no history of being a ninja whatsoever. Are you some kind of hidden ANBU operative? There can't be any reasonable explanation how you keep saving the most important people. Shizen, stop hiding in the corner. We are going to have a talk with him to make sure he doesn't get fresh with you. Already, he has seduced Daimyo of Wave's daughter, and that red-headed bitch from the Mist God. I hate her so much. If she was honest with herself, Anko wanted to be as bold and forward as the pretty redhead, and Naruto seemed to like redheads judging by how his eyes would always go to their hair. Instead of saying how she really felt, Anko justified manhandling Naruto with the reasoning that she was doing this to protect one of her friends, Shizen. If you try anything on Shizen, you'll have us to deal with, Kurenai said. I don't plan to try anything. Keep in mind that Tsunami, and Mei seem to be somewhat sweet to me. For one thing, they haven't tried to kill me yet like the rest of you, Naruto pointed out, enjoying how they became even angrier. But they refused to look him in the eye, probably out of guilt. He turned to the dark-haired girl, who he would come to love like a big sister in the future, noticing that she was about the same age as Anko. Shizen-san, don't let these girls tell you anything bad about me, or at least try, and see that I am not a bad person. I am really not. I have been known to do bad things to achieve my goals, but I can safely say that I will defend you with my life. He bowed to her, and kissed her hand, which almost made her faint. Some stepped out from the building. She was the one who filled out Naruto's bail papers, and it was her job to get him home. He is the enemy of all women, ladies. You can't trust him, some sensei said, stroking her swollen belly, but still grinned at them with those pointy white fangs. So is this why you wanted me here, so I can keep these brats from killing you? Smart move, kid. Smart move indeed. Naruto ran to her side, still mostly tied up in ropes, and patted her belly by breaking the bindings on one of his hands, which got an angry scowl from Yagua. She had put a lot of effort into those. Wow, have you thought of a name for the kid yet? I was thinking San. Sounds like a nice wolf pack name. How about Kiba? Hey, even better. Outside Hidden Leaf. Dan liked Naruto. He was a straightforward honest brat. He did the D-rank missions without a fuss, and tried to get his knees to open up. Tsunade didn't seem to like him, only because Naruto constantly kept telling her that her boobs were getting in the way of the mission. Other than that, he was a welcome addition to his life. Sometime during their latest mission they had been ambushed by a Jounin, and he went after Shizen to take her, as a hostage, but were stopped by a barrage of strange shadow clones with toad-like eyes. The shadow clones danced around the Jounin, and made short work of them. They were almost home free when a puppet user named Sasori pulled a surprise attack, and fled. Border of Hidden Sand. You shouldn't have taken the air bullets for me, Naruto, his teacher cried. Shizen sat beside him, as Tsunade tried to stop the blood from flowing out of him like a hydraulic pump. The busted blonde wouldn't stop shaking at how much blood could be contained in a little teenager. Naruto figured that if she didn't get her hands out of his bleeding chest, he was going to actually die. Tsunade-san, do you mind not trying to save me? If you just let me go for a second I can regenerate my skin. Fool, what are you talking about? She screamed. Can't you see I am trying to keep you alive? Naruto pushed the hysterical girl off, and stood up. His organs were half falling out of his belly, but he pushed them back in with his tiny fingers, much to Shizen's horror. You guys might want to step back. Naruto drew on the power of the Kyuubi in his chakra coils, and a violent red chakra surrounded his body like a demonic cloak. It turned the rain into steam, the grass into ash, and caused the others to run away from him, as fast as possible when they saw that the wall around Naruto was on fire. There, that's better, Naruto said before falling asleep. Shizen caught him before he could hit the ground. Uncle, I want to be able to do that too. Sorry Shizen, that's a blood limit. You can't just acquire that kind of power. But I want to, she sniffed. How do I get it? You can't, but your kids might, Tsunade said idly, then blinked when her boyfriend glared at her. She raised her hands in a defensive gesture. Not that I am trying to imply anything. Shizen, why are you looking at Naruto like that? It was a later question that got Shizen even more interested in Naruto. Do you mind if we take a quick trip to Suna? There is something I have to take care of. Naruto got off his teacher's back and ran to the dessert. How does he have so much energy after almost dying? Shizen asked. She felt nervous that the blonde might pass out and never wake up. Tsunade shrugged. Who cares? We'd better follow him. Who knows what kind of crap he might pull in Wind Country. Outside Hidden Sand Village. Naruto, why is that pregnant woman hanging all over you? Shizen asked, looking angry. This confused Dan since Shizen never got angry, especially over boys since the petite girls were more interested in ninjutsu than the opposite sex. Shizen grew up in a household which consisted of herself and her uncle. The girl spent most of her life growing up around smelly men, and the more of them she met, the more she realized that marrying one was something she would prefer to hold off for a very long time. Shizen, like Tsunade, she was one of the only few females in her life. It also helped that Tsunade adored her. They got along well, as if the busted blonde was some kind of long-lost aunt or something. That was why her feelings for Naruto were confusing. She was starting to understand why Anko and Kurenai became so angry when they saw this scene. Naruto may not have been their boyfriend, but he was sort of like her property. Uzumaki was her teammate, and another girl shouldn't be allowed to touch her teammate because he was hers. Good question, Naruto laughed, as the brown-haired mother ruffled his blonde hair. Karura had never met someone like Naruto before. The boy had literally broken down the gates of Suna. How in the world had he found the secret village she would never know, and issued a challenge against the Kazekage? Karura and her brother tried to calm down her husband, but the man was far too hot-headed. The boy had deliberately called him a coward, a villain, and horrible father in front of the entire boy. Uzumaki Naruto said this while covering himself in a cloak of red energy, and told the man that he would bring the village to its knees if the Kazekage did not accept his duel. The Kazekage accepted. He did not live. What did you do this time? The dark-haired girl sighed. Naruto smiled. I sort of killed the Kazekage. He was a dictator, and was going to seal a demon into his kid. Then I okay, not sort of. I took this village hostage, and got them to give me the pot where they kept the demon. The three teammates glared. Before you ask me where I put it, I am going to be honest with you, and say that I sent it to a place where no man can enter unless destined to step there. It's one of the summoned realms. Tsunade wondered if it was Toad Mountain. That was the only summoned realm she knew of, since it was the place Jiraiya grew up. Naruto reached behind the smiling, homely-looking woman who looked amused. Meet Karura. She's a bit heavy because she is pregnant, but she is a really nice person. If we stay a while, she'll make some nice grub for us to swallow. But that's not the only reason we should stay here for a bit. Naruto picked up a blonde-haired girl, and a boy with paint on his chubby, drooling face. These are her kids Temari, and Kanka something. I can't pronounce the rest. You forget to mention I have another one coming along the way. Karura pointed out. Yeah, about that, you might not want to name him Gaara. It sounds so demon-like. Try something nice like daffodils. Daffodil instead of Gaara? Yes, daffodil instead of Gaara. As he went on, Shizen was assured that Naruto's sanity was not the only thing wrong with him. Border of Lightning Country. Did anyone see where Uzumaki ran off to? Tsunade asked. I held out a map to Lightning Country, and his eyes literally turned into fox slits, and he ran straight towards that direction. Can you let me know what is going on with your student? Did his background check say anything about the hidden cloud? No, not that I am aware of, and believe me, many people have tried. After the Orochimaru incident, many parties in the Konoha system are trying to figure out what platform Uzumaki Naruto stands for. Minato says he isn't part of his group. Sarutobi says he has never heard of Uzumaki Naruto, and the fact that he but ran Danzo out of here by stealing all his files shows that he is not part of neither. What about the Elder Council? Is he a plant from that sector? She commented, then shook her head. Never mind, the Elder Council would never run Danzo out like that. Plus, the kind of trouble the boy seems to get into isn't their style. I can hear you guys talk, said Shizen, looking worried. We need to find him. He could be in trouble. Anko and Kurenai said that if no one is nearby, he might cause a diplomatic incident. He doesn't seem to care how bad his odds are, and from what Anko said, he had both his hands cut off, and still managed to escape Orochimaru's base. We should probably be heading out to Cloud. And, is it just me, or do you see a giant ox/tentacle monster near those mountains? They all turned around to see where Shizen's uncle, Dan, was pointing to, and panicked. It's the Eight Tails. Did we make a mission to attack it? I didn't read any reports saying otherwise. They looked at each other, and the word Naruto universally flashed through all of their minds. Kurabi's hut. Samui held Yujito's hand. Someone had challenged the Ox of Cloud, one of the strongest people on the planet, and also the Kurabi of the Eight Tails. He was the strongest Biju container in history, a man who could break mountains down to nothing, and turn the sky into lightning. And the challenger was winning. Yujito-chan, I'm scared, Samui said, holding onto the taller girl's legs. Why is that bad boy trying to hurt your sensei? We were just sitting here singing, and then he suddenly attacked him, calling him names. Why is he doing this? Honestly, I have no idea about Samui-chan. Let's go hide behind that hill. Crap, bad idea. Actually, now that I think about it, we should probably get the Reikage. He'll want to know about this. As the two girls left, the battle between the titans became more volatile. Fire, air, water, lightning, and earth covered both sky and ground. The beast of the hidden cloud did his best to destroy the legions of Sage Chakra clones, only for them to spring at him with dozens upon dozens of. At first he was sure this was some ploy by Namake's Minato, but after realizing his opponent was reckless beyond reason, Kurabi had to rethink who this could be. Whoever it was, he wore a Konoha headband protector. To Kurabi, that was absolutely strange because all of Konoha stayed as far away from him as possible. Every nation should, and every nation would stay away from him. There was only person on the planet who even stood a chance at controlling him, his brother the Reikage, and that wasn't because he was stronger. Kurabi looked down at the frog-like creature glaring at him from the ground. The kid was panting beyond reason, but looked at the giant ox in the eye, and laughed. Not bad at all. Almost as strong as pain summons. I see now why Konoha can't stop fighting. Not against someone like you. The boy put his hands together, and drew in more power from nature. Or at least that is what Kurabi sensed. We're too afraid to attack you directly, bud. But if your reputation goes down the drain, that'll be a different story altogether. Kid, I'd seriously consider just leaving. I really don't want to kill you. Kurabi sighed. Inside the desire to kill was rising, but he had to hold it back, lest he unleash it at this challenger. Come back, and see me when you're older. There ain't nothing you can do to provoke me into fighting. From the boy's palms 2 giant spheres come together to create one sphere 10 times the size of the boy's body. Oh, I got some ideas. The fight between the 2 titans tore apart the mountain. The Reikage came at the last moment to watch, as his brother rolled down holding his bleeding stomach. Kurabi couldn't stop panting, and trembling in fear at the creature that walked out of the smoke. Near Hidden Cloud Mountain, the Kage of Hidden Cloud couldn't believe what was in front of him. It looked like a giant fox, 8 tails, wrapped in bones and skin. There were several pieces of frog-like scales covering its snout, and its large frog-like silted eyes glared down at him from the top of the mountain. It was slobbering and drooling, getting high off its own power. This was the living incarnation of uncontrolled Biju energy and Sage energy. Kurabi got away from that thing. The Reikage managed to escape with Kurabi, as the beast set its eyes on them. Whoever was the host of such a creature had lost control altogether. The giant fox-like creature was transforming into a more frog-like beast, its tongue becoming longer, and its long sharp teeth getting smaller and gum-like. It made the Reikage sick just looking at it. It made him even sicker when the creature spoke. Reikage, we need to talk. I am the Elder Frog, and I came with a prophecy from the future. I have borrowed the form of this human to speak to you. The Reikage watched in amazement, as the being that called himself the Elder Frog shrunk, and morphed into a painting boy, whose tired eyes looked at the two from atop the broken mountain. We need to come up with a backstory. I don't have much time. You must hear my prophecy of the future. The very survival of the shinobi world depends on it. In a few moments the team from Konoha who this boy happens to occupy will be here. We'll have to make a cover story. But right now I have something to tell you about a group called Akatsuki. 5 minutes later the Reikage left feeling dizzy. He left Kurabi to come up with a cover while he went home to take advice. Outside Hidden Cloud Village. Naruto, who are those two? Tsunade asked, raising both her eyebrows. Sorry, I am so rude. To my right is Niyujito, to my left is Samui. I have no idea what her last name is. Hey, don't hit me. You didn't tell me your name. The two girls were blushing on either side of him. Neither had ever been in this type of situation before. Heck, up until recently Yujito had never even been near a guy before, and she liked it. They are my tour guides for today. Apparently the Reikage wants to recruit me into this village. Why would he want to do that? Asked Shizen, glaring at the two girls, who were trying not to die of embarrassment. I sort of beat up his little brother about an hour ago. In my defense, that giant 8-tailed ox attacked first when I told him rap sucks. Rap is where it's at. The voice of Kurabi shouted from atop a nearby mountain, despite being covered in bandages. It's your smutty stories that suck. Oh, you want a round two? Come bring it. Konoha. News of the Eight Tails' defeat, and the war ending with Claude spread like wildfire. Once again it was the mysterious Uzumaki Naruto who caused it. The council was fighting internally with themselves, trying to figure out what to do with him. Interrogation was certainly an option, but the idea of interrogating a 12-year-old would be a huge blow to the reputation of Konoha. They had an image of being child-friendly to maintain. Needless to say, Naruto's image became more enormous than Gamabunta, and the fangirls were sprouting faster than grass. That was why the girls of Konoha Orphanage were having a meeting. Konoha Orphanage. Girls, we can't let those other girls get their hands on Uzumaki. You better believe it, growled Yagua. The hunk of boy meat was far too important to just let him be lost to another village. The kind of power the Cloud and Mist might influence if he were to switch sides would be almost too much. Kami knows what they might do to him. He is way too trusting, Kurenai said, pacing up and down the room where Anko, Yagua, and Shizen sat. They were in Tsunade's house, and Shizen was the only orphan among them with living relatives with her uncle who was dating the slug Sanin. We have to tell him that we mean business, and that we are only looking out for his best interests. Precisely, those harpies just want him for his power. They know nothing about him, Anko interjected. She hated tsunamis, and from what she heard about Mei, Samui, Kurara, and Yujito, she despised them just as much. Anko shouldn't have to share that stupid Uzumaki Naruto. Well, she shouldn't have to share it with anyone who wasn't her friend. Shizen raised her hand, and blushed. We don't know anything about him either. That's not the point. He is a Konoha boy, and he is going to find a good Konoha girl to settle down with, Kurenai said. In that case, my uncle approves of him. Senju Tsunade is trying to arrange something, she said, blushing, as the other girls unleashed a bout of killing intent at her direction. Not if I get him first, Anko screamed, running out of the door. Anko, no cheating, Kurenai shouted, following her best friend. Inside she was happy Anko was back to normal. That still didn't mean she was going to let the younger girl have Naruto. Uzumaki Kushina grew up optimistic, albeit a bit strange. She came from a small ninja clan that once occupied a country called Whirlpool. Life wasn't always easy for their small family, but it wasn't entirely bad either. There were good seasons, and bad ones, family disputes, and government taxations. All those were normal things that everyone had to deal with, of course. It was when she immigrated to Konoha that her ability to believe in people diminished. Friends she thought she could count on stabbed her in the back. Friends she knew she could count on continued to die. And Namikaze Minato, despite all her efforts, continued to surpass her at every turn. No matter what she did, he was always one step ahead, and she hated him for it. She despised the smaller blonde boy. It didn't matter that Minato had no one, had to work hard for everything he had, and was constantly taking part-time jobs to pay for his tuition. The fact that he was a genius made her want to murder him every time he did an extraordinary feat. Of course she knew she was jealous of him. She knew the feeling inside of her was envy, a monster that fed on her need for attention, but she didn't care. She vowed that she would one day humiliate the orphan who made her look weak. She vowed to wipe that smile off his face every time people praised him. She vowed to leave his body broken and mauled beyond repair. When they grew older, Minato confessed that the reason he tried so hard to outdo her in every competition was to impress her and win her love. At that time she felt three things for the teenage boy. 1. Hatred. 2. Confusion. 3. Love. In that instant hatred turned to love, and love led to marriage. Now, after hearing what her husband was going to do with her developing baby, she was starting to wonder if she had made a hasty decision. Outside Hidden Leaf. See, your husband might use your kid in the ceiling of a chakra beast. So, hypothetically, I would consider hiding if I were you. If you want to save little Naruto-kun, that is, Naruto said to a terrified Kushina. What can I do? If you go east there is a tunnel that leads to Danzo's base. He is sort of out of town right now since he is being charged for breaking treaties, so it's empty. I think I'm going to tell Mikoto, Yoshino, and Mrs. Akimichi to join you. I hope you don't mind if Tsum is there, as well. Not at all, if it can protect my children. If Kyuubi attacks I'm all for it, she said, still feeling strange that she felt so comfortable around this boy who looked so much like her Minato. The boy had surprised her with an extensive amount of secret knowledge that only Umbu should have been aware of. He also claimed to be a secret operative, in charge of keeping the peace once the nine-tailed chakra beast came to attack their village, an idea that terrified the poor woman. By the way, what is your name? You look familiar. Have we met before? As she turned around, she realized something. He was gone. Kushina decided to contact Minato. They were supposed to unseal her belly for pregnancy earlier tomorrow. If she could get Minato to bring her to a base, and have an early birth, maybe, just maybe, She wouldn't let the Kyuubi lose. It wasn't like there was anyone keeping track of the beast inside of her stomach. And the boy didn't mention if anyone unleashed the beast. I just have to be careful, get in touch with Minato, leave the village, and things should be fine. Too bad she didn't know Murphy's Law. Hidden Leaf Forest. Holy shit. Is that a giant fox? No, it's your Aunt Makoto. Seriously, we should probably get the Hokage. He'll have something planned out. The Uchiha was about to do that when he heard the sound of spinning vortexes in the same direction the fox was coming from. The sounds of the vortex became louder and louder. The two boys spotted the source and looked startled. Obito blinked and rubbed his eyes. Oh, what the hell is that? It's him. I knew I wasn't hallucinating the last time. Kakashi, do you see that blonde kid in orange? Look at him. Wow, he is running straight to the fox. Reality suddenly kicked in, and Obito got into his superhero mode. Shouldn't someone stop him? They probably should have stopped him, but their duties always came first. The correct procedure would be to alert the Umbu. Kakashi shook his head. The kid's a goner. If he is stupid enough to run head first into the destructive path of a giant man-eating, forest-devouring, town-burning, demon from hell, fox, Konoha is better off without him living long enough to pass on his genes. Despite how much power Kakashi sensed coming off him, he paused, thinking about what else was wrong. If we tell Sensei he is going to play the hero, and save the little idiot due to his ego, the teacher thinks he can save everyone by himself. I admit he's strong, and all, but against the Biju, I wouldn't hedge my bets just yet. Sometimes I wonder if he is really a good guy or just an arrogant jackass pretending to be one. If we work together, you, me, and the village, that is, we could probably bring the fox down. The Uchiha then thought about his teacher's hero complex, and sighed. I have a feeling he's going to try and take it down by himself once we alert him. This always happens, he just doesn't change, Kakashi replied quietly. Suddenly they heard the beast roar. One of its legs was missing, and it was moving away from the village. To their astonishment, the beast was chasing the boy away from the village. The boy proved that it was a threat to the Biju, and, as a result, was leading it away from tearing their home apart. Hey Kakashi, I can't be seeing this. Is that blonde kid suddenly glowing with sage chakra, the kind Jiraiya sensei has? His friend nodded, still amazed at this display of increasing power. Hold on, his sage chakra is mixing with his own chakra, and some red chakra inside of his stomach. I'm zooming in. What is that? His eyes look like crosses, and that sphere he has in his hand is... Kakashi, we got to run. That kid has almost twice the power that the Biju has. And so they did. Naruto wasn't sure if he was going to survive this one. The Konoha hunter Nines were after him. Everyone he got to know in this period were out for his blood, and there was a giant beast waiting to devour him whole. You know, I don't want to do this. I know now that you're nothing more, and nothing less than a force of nature. I hope there are no hard feelings, but I have to do what I have to do. Naruto's body charged with the power of nature. It mixed in with both the red Kyuubi chakra, and the chakra in his own body. The sage elements were growing rapidly, and Naruto was losing control. The fox chakra began to grow more cells, and enlarge him to the size of something fierce. At the same time, scales began to form, and frog skin started to grow on the surface of the demonic-looking held onto the ground. As his body grew to the size of the fox he was about to face, the fox was still mad, hell-bent on killing him. Naruto could see that it was being controlled. Its eyes had the signature of the Sharingan hypnosis. Before Naruto's mind turned to ash, and his instincts to destroy kicked in, he apologized. I'm sorry, I don't have a choice. I'll get vengeance for you, my old friend. Though we were never friends, more like two dudes stuck together forever, not in a homosexual way. Not that there's anything wrong with being gay, but you get the idea. Boom. Near forest where Yondaime originally sealed Kyuubi, Kushina woke up on the side of a forest, with Minato holding her. They turned around to see what was going on when Minato ducked, and covered her body, as pieces of a giant monster flew through the air. There was a huge explosion that rocked the earth, and sent forth thunderclouds. The friends, Kakashi and Obito, ducked, as a giant fox arm flew through the air, and smashed through the village gate. For a minute they thought the beast had penetrated the village, but realized that the giant chakra arm made of mud and clay had been severed from the beast's body. Kushina, what did that boy say about the attack again? And then they heard the boom. Hokage Tower. GH, what happened to me? Naruto opened his eyes to find 4 girls sleeping in a bed with him. He wondered if he was in some kind of hospital since the ceiling was as sterile, as gauze, and 8 times as white. Naruto felt a blanket covering his chest, and felt the girl's hands holding his own. He tried to move his arms, but there was a dark-haired girl sleeping on one, and a purple-haired girl on the tried to move his head. But there was a raven-haired young lady sleeping on his chest that held him firmly there, followed by her best friend, Anko. Naruto could see tired lines under their eyes, an indication that they had been waiting for him to wake up for a while. Naruto looked around the room, and saw that one person wasn't asleep. He was wearing a jounin uniform, and was looking at him. As the man was just staring at him, Naruto continued to look around the room for any hidden enemies. "Are you the one they call Uzumaki Naruto?" the blonde-haired man asked. It was the voice. The boy recognized that voice. Naruto turned around to see the man for the first time, really see who he was. He was Namikaze Minato, the one with no history, the one who destroyed the nine-tailed beast. Naruto was about to shout a reply, but held himself back when he felt Anko's hands tighten around his own. He didn't want to wake the girls just yet. That depends. If you aren't going to put me in jail for all my accumulated crimes, then I may be this Uzumaki you are looking for. Naruto had no delusions about his execution. He had broken so many rules that kept the village alive. In the end it was worth it since he saved the people of Konoha, but he had betrayed their laws nonetheless. Keep in mind I probably saved the village. I went through a lot of options, and figured that the best option would be to start killing things. Minato frowned, and allowed Naruto to continue. Can that at least count for something before I have to worry about the Uchiha jail cells again? The tall blonde shook his head. Don't worry, I do not plan to send you anywhere. Minato sighed, and rubbed his temples. I was asked by the council to ask you an important question. The man looked sad, as if someone had taken something precious away from him. How would you like to be a Kage? Konoha Hospital. I can't believe you helped. No wait, did more than help deliver all of those kids. Heck, Inoichi looked a bit sick. Why would you even want to? Asked Ino's father. He had gone through 8 cigar packs out of pure nervousness, yet this child, who was to be their future Kage, didn't have a problem with delivering Ino at all. Still I am sort of glad you were there. Naruto smiled, placing Ino back into the man's arms. What can I say? There is just some kind of connection between me and these little guys. Naruto walked towards a crying Hinata, picked her up, and tapped her a few times on the back. Within moments she stopped crying, and fell to sleep. Hi, as she looked at Naruto in amazement. I had my Kage Bunshins read all these baby books. I'll drop by from time to time to help out, but I doubt that would be necessary once your wife recovers. Take care of her, you don't know what you're missing until it's gone. Something we wanted to ask you, how would you like to be their godfather? Sim walked into the room, trying to laugh at the confused faces of the Umbu guards stationed in the room. Despite giving birth moments ago, there was a healthy glow about her that made her look divine. The other brats may not need it, but considering my husband ran out on me, I think I could use a man around the house from time to time, if you get what I mean. She winked at him, and Naruto had the grace to turn away. When his face was his normal tan color he thought about what the matron said, and nodded. I would love that, sensei. From one of the cribs a feral-looking boy started crying. Naruto walked down to the infant, his bandages covering his arms. He picked up little Kiba, still not minding that the baby vomited on him an hour ago, and rocked him to sleep. It's funny, Naruto thought about something his father told him. Right now the shinobi world seems to be going to hell. War and desecration would follow, unless he did something about it. By the time these brats are 12, I have a feeling they are going to have to grow up fast, too fast for my liking. I have some ideas that might help us, and our allies. I hope I can count on your support because I can't do this alone. If I can't do this, these kids will grow up in warring times, just like us. It's one of the reasons that I wish to create a better world before they are too old. Sim blushed. That's such a great goal, kid. I wish my asshole husband thought that way. His penis did most of his thinking. Naruto didn't need to hear that. God, I hate that fucker. I'd be willing to look after Kiba in my spare time. Someday I'll have kids of my own. Guessing it would be practice. 5 years later, Kage Summit. I am holding this meeting today to announce that Uchiha Madara is alive. Shouts of protest met his speech, and he slammed his fist down on the summit table to keep them quiet. There is no debate about this. The next one to disagree dies. Okay, now that we have that settled, anyone have any ideas of how to destroy him? Naruto tried to ignore the fact that the current Reikage, Yujito, along with her assistant, Samui, were making doe eyes at him during the entire event. 1 part seduction, 3 parts murderous intent, like all women in his life. For heaven's sake, he was a married man. Unlike his father or make-believe father Minato, he at least never hid the fact that he was married, and had kids. Anyone who would take on a man who was rumored to have destroyed a Kage, a Sennin, and a mythical-tailed beast was begging to be 6 feet under. There had been over 100 assassination attempts by the very people who were sitting in this very room, and they were not happy when their assassins came back in a body bag. Naruto could count on his hands and toes how many times Yujito had tried to kill him along with Samui's team, only for them to be rescued by Kurabi. Naruto always just patted them on the head, and told them to try again next time. They were getting better. Heck, they almost had him the last time. Needless to say, the girls felt more and more affection towards him. It would be hard not to, with his mercy, compassion, and desire to help others. And Akio-Sama, any suggestions? Naruto said, turning to the leering blonde, who towered over most of the other Kages in this room. I say we get all of our bijus, and have an assault on all his bases. Blow them sky high, and burn them to the ground. Only an idiot picks a fight with the United Shinobi Nations, Naruto-sama. I like that plan, Naruto smiled. Gather your troops, we're heading out. 1 hour later the troops meet the legendary Sharingan god. Madara does not survive. Konoha Nursery. While they're so small, said 5-year-old Naruto. Hokage-san, they are so squishy. Why do you keep looking at them though? And what am I doing here? The boy giggled when the tall blonde-haired Hokage, whom he was named after, tickled him on the side of his stomach. Uzumaki looked at the 4 little girls sleeping in the small hospital cribs. He couldn't help but feel proud, so proud that he let out a bellowing laugh that caused many of the nurses to scatter, looking at their unusual, yet very clever, and oh so near indestructible Hokage with annoyance. Each one of those girls, born only moments ago, and at the same time, had a startling resemblance to their mothers. Hokage Uzumaki loved their mothers. They hadn't changed much since that fateful day they met, meaning they still sorta wanted him dead. That, Naruto-kun, is your godfather's kids, and someday you'll have to take care of them, if I die that is. I have brought you here to let you know that, if by some strange chance that I suddenly die of food poisoning, or if one of my wives kill me, both very painful deaths, then I leave you in charge of them. Why me? Namikaze, Naruto exclaimed, feeling slightly afraid. Uzumaki sighed. Someday I'll tell you a story, as to why I'm making you in charge, and I'll even tell you why you might not want to kill the little twerp. At the age of 5, Kushina's kids seemed to already be attached to the little ones in his crib, which shouldn't have been a surprise since they were just as much the boy Naruto's daughters, as they were the Hokage's, though little Naruto didn't know that. The 5-year-old turned to Hokage Uzumaki. Can I hold them? The Hokage thought about it for a moment. Naruto, you might want to ask their mothers. Anko, Kurenai Yagu, and Shizen almost pulled my arm off when they were coming into this world. Word of advice, don't let your wife hold your arms when they are giving birth. They'll push the skin of your arm right into the marrow. Uzumaki thought more about Naruto's question. If you drop any one of them, my wife will murder me, and then your dad, just because he looks like me. I'll let you hold them, someday, Naruto, just not today, unless it's okay with them. Here you are, we've been looking all over for you. Tucci said you stopped by earlier, but didn't know where you went. Uzumaki snorted. He said you took Minato's kid with you. No idea what you could be doing with the Namikaze brat, but it's your call. Anko said, walking behind the Kage with the rest of the girls. Naruto glimpsed them from the corner of his eyes. They changed a lot from his timeline. Sure, they all looked the same, but their personalities were a lot more common to one wasn't as rash, Kurenai not nearly as cold, Yagwa not as secretive, and Shizen a bit more wanted to think he made a positive change in their lives. Well, at least he wanted to believe he did right by them. The story of their wedding was a huge pain. The concept of a harem marriage was attractive at the time, but he knows that it could destroy a family, especially a Kage family. The problem was he didn't want to choose between them, yet that problem was solved easily when they proposed an odd idea. The girls proposed that they have a trial marriage to see if it could work, and it did. It worked well for everyone, including Naruto. The clones provided enough fun and excitement for all, and in the long run it might have been better for all since it meant they didn't have to grow up to be the kind of back alley kunoichi that a few of them turned out to be in the future. All of these girls had a deep connection to Naruto in his past and future, and they wouldn't let him go. He had changed their lives before, and now he was bringing even bigger changes. The girls were still in their maternity clothes, walking carefully into the room. The woman of Naruto's harem, if it could be called that, did not want to wake up their children. They pressed their faces into the glass mirror of the nursery. They are so cute, aren't they? Almost makes you wish you had another one. Anko couldn't lie to herself. The process of creating children was exciting to her, especially with a husband of unlimited stamina. She was just glad to be able to take a rest, recovering her energy for another round while one of the other girls filled in during her break. It was a team effort to keep Naruto satisfied, though she'd admit that more than once it was more exciting watching her big sister Kurenai do the dirty. Not that you could call her a lesbian. Not you or they. No, they really can't. Uzumaki looked at the rest of the girls whose eyes lit up at the idea of another child. The blonde-haired Kage shook his head, and went into the room. He would hold his children, enter the nursery, and one by one pick them up gently. He looked down at the small girls in his arms, and watched them open their eyes. I may be the past, but in my hands is the future. It wasn't an easy journey, and if I could do it again, I would in a heartbeat. He looked at the small Naruto boy tugging at his pants. Hokage Uzumaki knelt down to allow the small boy to get a closer look at them. The small boy took the babies from the big man's arm, and sat on the floor, holding them one by one. The tall Hokage sat on a chair, and watched the ground around him. It's when I see this, in front of me, a future that seems almost too good, and yet so real, that I know that maybe, just maybe, I saved the world. Slim arms, many arms, wrapped around the man, and he fell into darkness, weary, tired, and slowly drifted into sleep. He hoped he wouldn't wake up at the start. Again, back to reality. Day of his birth, the day he saved his world. Hey Naruto, get up! Naruto blinked. Holy shit! What happened? He was in the same room he talked to the Yondaime Kage after blowing up the Kyuubi. You were asleep for the past 3 weeks, little Anko shouted. Beside her Kurenai Shizen, a purple-haired Kunoichi, Tsunami, Mei, and Yujuto, and little Samui, looked at him with worry. What could you possibly have dreamed about for that long? Naruto blinked at each one of them then grinned. Wonder if that's the future? Bah! Way too good to be true, as if, oh well, funny thing about that dream. You were there, and you were there, and even you were there Shizune. It was weird, I dreamed I saved the entire world. The end of story. Thanks for watching my video, and make sure to check out the author of this fanfic. Link is in the description. See you next time, till then sayonara.